Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys all had a less painful Sunday than I had. We had too much fun with our Mardi Gras party.
I was gonna say that was a result of our own making.
Oh yeah, it was entirely our fault. It turns out that Celso's doing a little too good at his job because those drinks do not taste like alcohol at all.
The Hurricane did.
I didn't taste that one.
Yeah,
I had the Voodoo Mule and the whatever the whiskey one was.
The Hurricane tasted like a hurricane should, although with whiskey instead of rum because Resurgent does not make rum.
Yeah, that's putting a whiskey into a rum drink that's a reversal right there.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, that was we had a good time this weekend. I didn't even realize it was Mardi Gras.
Yeah, I keep forgetting when different things are. I for the last 4 weeks I have been asking Kat when Ash Wednesday is, and she's like the Tuesday after Mardi Gras, and I was like, when's Mardi Gras? It's not my fault I don't look at a calendar that doesn't involve just like the day's work that needs to be done.
I'm more concerned that you didn't clock her saying it was a Tuesday.
What do you mean?
It's Ash Wednesday.
No.
I know, you said when's Ash Wednesday, and you said that she said it was the Tuesday after Mardi Gras. And I was like,
all right,
what?
sorry, mixed up. Sorry, the Wednesday after Mardi Gras.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I said when's Mardi Gras.
I did think it was a little funny seeing some people on Twitter freaking out about politicians having ash on their foreheads and being on the news and like going nuts about it. And I was like, it was all Europeans too. And I was like, they're just Catholic. It's like, it's not, they didn't draw it on themselves. A priest did it. Like, it's a religious thing.
Here's the thing. So the more we do this job, the less time I spend on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
The more I see headlines, the more I realize that too many people only interact on the internet.
Oh, yeah. Like, chronically online and terminally online are things that I think will be in the DSM-6.
Guys, if you're concerned about whether or not you're spending too much time online, after this show, go sit under a tree.
Yeah,
Not the bone tree.
Literally sit under a tree.
Yeah, just sit under. Don't bring anything. Don't
Cheeks to earth.
Yeah.
What?
If it's near your home, leave a phone inside. But don't go too far without your phone, just in case. Just like, if it's an evening, watch a sunset.
Physically touch grass.
Yes. You would be amazed at how good it is for the soul, even if you don't believe in souls.
I always feel markedly better when I come home from being in like West Virginia, South Carolina, the woods in general, because I think I'm just out and about in the trees.
I feel markedly better after watching a sunset from an open parking lot. Purely because there's that around here, at least, that's the place where you can get the most open space and see the sky. And that's it.
That's the problem is all of our like mountains are so short that there's trees at the top.
Exactly. They're so short that there's trees at the top, and there's so many of them that the amount of sky you actually see doesn't really change that much from bottom to top.
No.
So
yeah, it's Pennsylvania is beautiful, but the state's name is accurate.
Yeah, there's a lot of trees.
So many trees in Pennsylvania, like so many.
And hills.
Oh yeah, trees and hills. Which is why Ohio bores me, Aiden, because it's Pennsylvania without the hills.
Yeah.
Who decided that an entire state should be flat?
I don't know. Probably the same person who designed Jersey.
Yeah, you know what? My like clearest memory of Ohio is I was driving west. And here's the thing, if you're driving from like State College, Pennsylvania to Columbus, Ohio, you're just driving west across Ohio for 6 hours on like one road. And all you see is it's like billboard about Jesus, billboard about an adult superstore, billboard about Jesus that's referencing the billboard about the adult superstore, billboard for the adult superstore that's referencing the billboard about Jesus that was referencing the billboard about the adult superstore.
Yeah, anyone who runs logistics for billboards in rural America, you deserve a raise.
It's incredible. There's also been exactly one billboard on 76, might actually be on 322, but one of the two roads you take to get from Philadelphia to State College, because again, everything's just highways. There's one that's been the exact same one. Since I started going to college back in 2016, the exact same billboard has been there for 9 years. And it says 877 for truth, or no, 874 truth call to like hear about Jesus.
There's the same one here in Scranton.
Has it been there for the last 9 years?
Yep, if not longer.
Do you know how much those bills? It's $17 a day.
A day?
Yeah.
It's got to be like a church thing.
It is a church. It's definitely a church thing. But I'm like, dude, you can tell people about Jesus for free.
That's like,
There's a more efficient use of your money.
yeah, that's like minimum $6 to $7 grand a year.
Like, as a Christian, guys, there's more effective things than billboards. If you're going to spend that money, do it on social media. You'll reach thousands of people who care.
Yeah. Did I do that math right? 365 times 17,
I'm not the person to ask.
basically 20.
Yeah. But you know, I'm glad we got around to the church here, because I think we should talk about giants. And there are giants in the Bible, as we know.
There are.
There are also giants in the Native American stories, and there are giants on the Magellan expedition, and there are giants in Kandahar, except there definitely aren't.
You know what I just realized?
What?
I saw a clip from Jubilee, one of those
right.
like
Yeah.
atheist first 50 Christian things or whatever.
Was it the Sam Cedar one, or was it the other guy?
The other,
Smarmy British guy.
yeah, the British guy. I forget his name. I think it's Alex.
Something like that.
Alex O'Connor, I think.
Yeah, somebody I had commented on one of his Instagram posts, and I was like, me when I don't know anything about Christian theology, and one person pointed out he has a degree in theology, and I was like, he did not earn it.
I would love to see a conversation between you two, because like everything I've seen from him, he does know his stuff. Like he cites the Greek and the Hebrew of the original text of different passages,
Yeah.
like from memory. Considering you also do that, I would love to see the discussion and or argument that you two would have.
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know.
He's an atheist.
I know he is. I always just wonder how, like, every time I see a clip from him, and maybe it's because they're out of context, but they're his clips. Every time I see one from him, I'm like, well, that was just the least charitable interpretation of that verse that you could possibly have.
And this is why I want to have you two converse.
Yeah, maybe. Speaking of which, Weird Bible on Thursday.
Weird Bible
on Thursday is going to have Wendigoon and Stakuyi and us. Yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch of boys.
It's going to be exciting.
The boys cast.
Everything's going to be set up upstairs.
I know. I'm excited.
But we should probably make sure the Wi-Fi is going to be good enough for that.
We probably should, although I think we can find a way to make all this stuff work.
I would love if that's true.
I believe that's how it works. We should just call Mike and be like, hey, Mike, how do those cables work?
Yeah. We'll look into it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, the show has a topic. This is how it was filming History Unhinged. For once, I was the one staying on topic, and everybody else was like, no, absolutely not.
Well, that's the thing, is that we called the show Unhinged. We're keeping up with the design of the show.
I know.
So
did we tell the people that the show is on, or did I forget to do that?
That's a great question.
I'm gonna do that right now. Anyway, while I do that, I'm gonna talk about Goliath, because I think that's a good place to start here.
I figured you would dive right into Nephilim, but go ahead.
Well, that's where I'm going with it. Can you send the link to the Discord?
Yeah, of course I can.
Thank you. So one of the interesting little quandaries about the Bible is Goliath a giant in the sense that he is supposed to be of the Nephilim, or is he a giant in the sense that he is just larger than everyone else? And what's interesting about it is that there are some arguments that he is of the Anakim, who are of the Nephilim, and that puts us in a difficult position interpretively, because he is never referred to as a Nephilim himself. And I think part of that may come from the fact that really nobody is referenced as being a pure-blooded one by that point in the book. And yet you have this biblical account from a war that occurred during the Bronze Age, or I guess just after the Bronze Age, where they're saying, yeah, this guy is a giant who may or may not be mythological in stature. And that is never explained. This section of the book, and this is kind of where I'm going with it, there's a lot of parts of the Bible where it will refer to something like Goliath, and it doesn't elaborate. And when you go back and you look at a lot of historical sources, you start to see that exact same thing show up. You have, I think I likened it to the story about the joke on the Sumerian clay tablet. Oh God, does it have the wrong thumbnail?
It does. It's okay.
Ugh. I put the right thumbnail on it too. That's what pisses me off.
I was going to bring it up, but I figured it.
Yeah, you can go. Well, if you go into the studio thing, you can change it. It's easy enough. It's going to drive me nuts if we don't fix it.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to let you do that.
Okay, we'll switch spots.
Anyway, so as you do that,
Yeah.
What book is David and Goliath in again?
God, why am I forgetting that? It's either First Kings or Second Samuel, I think.
I'm gonna use.
I'm not that good about these things, but yeah, if you want to grab it for me,
Yeah, here, I'll grab yours as well.
I can just look that up for you really quick.
Oh, this is somehow turning into a weird Bible episode.
We're gonna get First Samuel 17.
First Samuel.
I was close. I was close enough.
Let's see.
Where did there? See, this is what always happens to me. I could swear I had the right one, but it's fine. Save. Now it's the right thumbnail.
That was quick.
Yeah, I told you.
Nice. All right, let's swap back.
I told you I could be swift. So yeah,
Swift with it.
give me 1 second here.
Yeah,
I should have thought to just have my Bible open instead of trying to remember what the book said.
We're not really good at planning ahead.
Well, to give you a sense of where we were, half an hour ago, I was still writing this week's episode. And boy, let me tell you, the whole Vikings founding a colony in North America thing, way more convoluted than you might think it is.
Yeah, and I was thinking myself building the set for upstairs for tomorrow.
Yeah, the whole like Leif Erikson discovered North America thing is not as simplistic as you might think, but we'll be getting into that, next week.
How exciting.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude, I've been having so much fun writing this one.
I believe it.
Because originally the concept was going to be what actually drove the Vikings out of Vinland? Why didn't they stay? Because currently the perspective is they liked the land. They felt like the land was worth settling.
Yep.
But the natives were a problem. And they felt like they couldn't fight them. Meanwhile, literally within 10 years, another Norse invasion occurs in Britain against a united England that has been fighting the Norse for 200 years straight. And they just invade and win. Like the Danes and the Norse come in and they just blow through the English with no problem. And I'm supposed to believe that 10 years before that, they couldn't have done that to people who were fighting them with basically stone weapons.
It's a great point.
You kind of think, it's like, if the Vikings if the Norse at Vinland had chainmail, there would have been no competition. Like, they would have been invincible.
Yep.
For all intents and purposes, and yet it didn't occur to anybody to be like, hey, we could just go back and get some chainmail. I mean, if they had gone to the King of Norway, they had gone to Olaf Tryggvason, and they had won, St. Olaf, my friend. We found a bountiful land to the west. It's only like 6 days from Greenland. We have a whole bunch of grapes. We have hardwoods. We have seal skins. We have all of these wonderful resources that really would not take that long to get back here in the grand scheme of things. It would take, a month for something to get from Vinland to Norway. Do you want to commission an invasion of some kind with our weapon? They had the best steel in Europe.
All I can say is that maybe something that we're covering this week was a little bit further east than some of the reports have been. And maybe they are the reason.
As much as I wish that was the case, I'm so against it. I'm so against that. Now, I do say in the video, I do bring up how the timeline works here. But
I was wondering, I'm talking about the CTK.
Yeah. So also just, because we're going to talk about it at some point tonight anyway, this Friday's video is going to be another one on the CTK, which you might remember that we covered a year and a half ago in 2 videos. And since we had a short week for a number of reasons, and we're filming History Unhinged next week, so I basically needed 2 weeks to write the main video, I kind of took...
You mean this week?
Yeah. Well, next week's video is getting shot this week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So the idea was like, it would be better for me to have more time to work on the Vikings video and then come back and, do things otherwise. So Archie... So what I did was I went and I reorganized our previous 2 videos on the CTK, added in some new stuff, did some general commentary just interspersed within the older material, and kind of combined it all into one episode that covers the entire story in a format that I think makes more sense and makes it easier to grasp. Because the original two were just like, there was too much stuff that got repeated from the first one in the second one, and then it got really granular in the second one without having that much narrative. So this one is it flows better, and it has updated information. I got some things wrong the first time around. So this actually has content from 3 videos on top of new content that I wrote last week. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's a fun one. I recommend taking a look at it. If you don't feel like doing that, I understand. But I would still appreciate the view because, that's how we make money. Anyway, coming back to the whole Goliath thing, give me 1 second. Why am I having trouble? It was 1 Samuel 17, right?
Yeah, let me double check for you. Did you close it already?
I might have. Here we go.
I have, 1 Samuel 17, at least the top of mine says David kills Goliath, so.
Yeah, there we go. David's defeated Goliath. So, I'm trying to remember exactly what is said about him. Yes, and there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Now, Aiden.
Wait, really quickly, which verse is that?
It's 17:4. 1 Samuel 17:4.
Got it.
So, do you recall Sir Francis Drake's belief about what the etymology of Patagonians was?
Yes, that the Pata was, I think it was the Pata was actually penta, meaning 5.
He thought it was supposed to be penta, and then he thought that gonies, for some reason, meant cubits.
Yeah.
I did have somebody comment that penta is a prefix that can mean 5 in Spanish. It comes from Greek, so it's been transliterated in Spanish. Penta itself is a transliterative term. So if you were assuming that they were going for a Spanish language thing, you would think that they would have gone with something that was closer to cinco. That was not to say that penta can't be used in Spanish at all, but rather I would expect if they were going Spanish or Portuguese, then the term they would use would have been related to cinco rather than penta. But he thought it was pentagones, and that meant 5 cubits, which is 7.5 feet. Which means that Goliath, being 6 cubits and a span, puts him closer to 9 or 9.5. So Goliath is somebody who can adequately be described as a giant. Like a true, not just a tall person. That is outside the realm of human possibility, as far as we're aware.
As documented within the words of the Bible.
Exactly. And we're told, he had a helmet made of brass. He was armed with a coat of mail. These are all probably inadequate translations, just based on the time. It probably would not have been mail in the sense we understand it today. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. So he's wearing a coat that is literally like 90 pounds. Have you ever worn chainmail?
I've worn something that was heavy.
I've worn aluminum chainmail.
Yeah.
It's like 30 pounds. Steel is like 60. This guy was wearing 90 to 100. So we're talking about a dude who's not just tall. This would be somebody with an extraordinary amount of girth as well. I'm trying to find, though, because if I remember correctly, there is a mention of his ancestry, and for some reason, I'm not finding it, which is driving me insane. And I'm wondering if it was a note. Yeah, so 9 3/4 feet, this guy. And, I have the actual exact weight here, 125 pounds of armor, which is just insane. So the giant that we're having described in the Bible is nearly 10 feet tall. He wears armor that weighs 125 pounds. And he carries a javelin that is basically made of a weaver's beam. And I thought we got direct mention of his ancestry in Samuel. I don't know why I'm mixing that up. But I want to contrast that with the story we get about the Patagonians. Because one thing that I see all the time is people saying we have all these accounts of giants. We have these accounts of giants in the Bible, and we have these accounts of giants from Native American stories, and we have these accounts of giants from exploratory expeditions. So if all of these people are describing giants, Aiden, surely there must be giants, right?
You would think.
Or at least they might be giants.
Yeah.
I think the flaw in the argument there is that if we look at the way that Goliath is described, not only is he not part of a race of giants, he is one giant amongst the Philistines, which would imply that he's got some sort of special ancestry, but the Philistines themselves aren't giants. It's just Goliath. When we look at Magellan's forces, what they found, well, they said that there were giants, but it was an entire race of them. We go back to Kandahar, and even though that story is almost certainly fictitious, it's one solitary giant that the people around his lair are aware of. Mm-hmm. If we look at the Site Ka, which of course those who have seen the original video will probably know, they are not actually described as being giant by the natives. So that's a bit of an issue, but it plays into what I'm saying, which is that a lot of the accounts you're going to see online who are saying, you know, oh, they're hiding giants from us. The Smithsonian is hiding the giants. If you look at the details of each individual discussion on what the giants are, they vary too much to be describing the same thing, which puts us in a position where there are either multiple different races of giants existing on the planet, or we're trying to conflate things that aren't actually connected. Mm. And I think the latter is more likely the case. You know, I think the Bible is actually kind of interestingly unique in its description of Goliath as a giant, because it doesn't pretend to be anything else, and there's no external factors to argue with, and it's actually describing it as a giant. It's not somebody taking the mythology and expanding on it. The Site Ka, as we know, the Native American stories about them describe them as being taller than average, but it doesn't, there's no sense that they are particularly huge. Mm-hmm. Goliath is particularly huge. Meanwhile, we look at the Patagonian giants, who are probably closer to the Site Ka in every possible way, in that they're described as a race. They're in the Americas. They are cannibals, or at least ostensibly cannibals, because the rest of the people they ran into were. And yet they're described completely differently. The Patagonians are, you know, twice the height of a Spaniard, which, depending on the size of a Spaniard, is going to be anywhere from 8 to 10 feet. The Site Ka are just tall. Now, we do have Numuzoho, who's, you're going to see, if you watch the video, I make an argument for how Numuzoho and all of this connects to one mix-up in the archaeological record that kind of confused everybody on the Site Ka situation. But Numuzoho is described as being huge, and he's called the people pounder. That's what his name means, is the people pounder, because he takes people and he pounds them in a mortar and pestle. But something that I noted as interesting about that story, as well as the Patagonian giant story, is that some of the things Numuzoho does don't make sense for a giant. Some of the things that the Patagonian giants do don't make sense for a giant. We're told that these guys are twice the size of a normal man. We're told that Numuzoho is large enough to pick a fully grown person up and grind them up in a mortar and pestle. That's huge. That is legitimately gigantic. And yet, we're also told that Numuzoho enters a building built by Paiutes. And yet, we're told that the Patagonian giants were able to wear a pair of manacles made for a human. So you get these weird inflations of size that don't actually make sense. And then I think we see the same thing with Wendigos. You know, Wendigos are described as giants. But then when you look at it, on the one hand, they say these guys are 10 to 12 feet tall. But then they talk about them as being 6 feet tall, human-sized. A group of braves is able to go and chop one's knees off without much trouble with stone weapons. That doesn't sound like something that's 20 feet tall. That sounds like something that's kind of been magnified for some reason in the minds of the people telling the story. And then you look at the Kandahar one, and that just seems like a creepypasta. Every single response we got from people who were actually in Afghanistan at the time was that the story was either a joke or a complete hoax. And when you look at the background for it, it kind of feels like it has to be, because nobody manages to keep the story straight, and everything about it sounds more like Hollywood. I mean, what really, what killed me with the Kandahar Giant one, the thing that made it certain to me that was a BS story.
What's that?
It was the guy who said he was on the mission and that a Green Beret broke cover to charge a giant with his M4.
See, I thought it was going to be that the pilot mixed up two very distinct aircraft.
There was that too. Somebody did tell me that they had heard both Chinooks and Pavlos referred to as Jolly Green Giants. My understanding is that the term was used in the Vietnam War for whatever the precursor to the Chinook was. But so far as I could tell, it does not apply to the modern Chinook, but maybe it does. So that one definitely threw me for a loop as well. The idea of them having multiple 50 caliber weapons, though, I mean, 50 Beowulf maybe, but if you're in a mission where you're not expecting to encounter, long sight lines or vehicles, I find it hard to believe the group of Green Berets would be carrying multiple 50 caliber weapons. And then,
unless for some reason they're referring to Desert Eagles, but
I don't think that. That's the other thing, is like the way he talked about the guns didn't work for me. It didn't sound like a Green Beret talking about their weapons. It sounded like somebody who watched Battle Los Angeles talking about weapons. So the idea there would be, but it really was the guy charging. But that's what I'm saying, is with each of these stories, you kind of get something where it's, oh, okay, this doesn't make a ton of sense. There's something in here that is a clue that something in here is not the truth. I think with the Kandahar Giant story, it's the guy breaking cover with an M4. It's the way they talk about the weapons. With the Patagonian Giant story, it is the the fact that normal-sized men were able to restrain 10 or 12 foot tall giants with their hands and tie ropes around them, and the fact that the human-sized monocles fit them, and that they were able to put like normal person-sized clothes on. If you look at the CTK, there's nothing quite as blatant about it. They're just not described as giants by the Native Americans. That is a purely modern invention of the story. That's probably based on the fact that there was a 6 foot 6 inch tall skeleton found in that cave, allegedly, which I don't believe is actually in the archaeological report. If I remember correctly, the tall skeleton was reported by Pugh and Hart, or potentially even just people covering the story later on. But what really does it for me is the jumping into the air and catching arrows and turning around and shooting them back. Do you know how fast arrows move?
Fast enough to be really difficult to catch with your bare hands.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how fast spears thrown from an atlatl move?
No.
Slow enough to catch with your hands. Now, if the story gets that basic fact wrong, how likely is it that other things are not quite what they seem?
High.
Mm-hmm. There's also the fact that in the CTK story, we hear two different accounts of what happened. One person tells us that all of them died in the fire that happened up in that cave. Her brother tells us they escaped and ran and joined another tribe further to the west. I'm going to let you guys hear the rest of that argument in Friday's video, because I can't make it now. I have to lay everything out in order for it to make sense, because there's a lot of etymological stuff. There's a lot of tribal relationship stuff. But there's also, you look at the Numazoho story and you see comparisons trickle down between the two stories, and you can kind of understand how somewhere along the line, stuff from the Numazoho side of things maybe made it in to the CTK side of things, and that it wasn't intentional. It was just kind of a mix-up. Also, there's some arguments that Sarah Winnemucca may have exaggerated her position within her tribe, her father's position within her tribe, the stories she had access to, things like that, which wouldn't be surprising. That happens all the time. It's, I think people get this idea in their heads that tribal stories are more exaggerated than Western ones. They're generally not. It's just that oftentimes there are more accounts of a given Western story, so it's easier to see the contradictions between them, and then you can kind of work your way through them, which is what I'm doing for the Vinland video. And oh my god, for two stories that are 97% the same thing, that 3% is the most painful 3% difference I've ever seen.
What is making it so painful?
Well, for example, there's this guy Torvald, and in one story, he's in both stories. He dies in both stories. He dies much in the same way in both stories. But in one story, he's Eric the Red's son. And in another story, he's Eric the Red's son-in-law. And in one story, he goes on an expedition on his own. And in another story, he's just a part of someone else's. And in one story, he's killed during an attack by an innumerable amount of Skraelings. And in another story, he's killed by one guy who has 1 foot.
That's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes on like that. There's also I think one of the big issues is everybody has this perception that like Vinland is one spot. I think there are multiple Vinlands. There are so many weird things about this story. I wasted like 4 hours. I wouldn't say wasted necessarily, but I spent 4 hours looking at the map and trying to figure out, based on what is said, where the hell these guys landed and how it's Lanzo Meadows. Because for those who aren't aware of the Vinland colony and how all that broke down, back in the 60s, archaeologists found a Viking settlement, basically a longhouse, at a spot called Lanzo Meadows on the northern coasts of Newfoundland. Newfoundland?
I say Newfoundland.
Newfoundland.
Everyone I've heard in vaguely our area calls it Newfoundland.
Yeah, Newfoundland, I think. Anyway, point being, Newfoundland, maybe? I don't know. Every time I say it, a Canadian corrects me, and no matter how I say it, a Canadian corrects me.
I'm a Northeasterner.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick one and do it.
That's fair. Anyway, this place, Lanzo Meadows, it's basically a Viking longhouse. There's evidence of other artifacts there. It's not really up for debate. There was a Viking colony there, or a Norse colony, I should say. The problem is that you cannot follow the directions from the sagas and get there. And it's not like they're broadly disagreeing on what the location was, nor does it seem vague. Like, it's a little vague in that there are a few different places that match. It's that all of them mention the settlement being up a river and by the side of a lake. And that's not where Lanzo Meadows is at all. It's on the coastline. So Leif Erikson, Torvald, Thorfinn Karlsefni, all of their settlements are described as being in places that are not Lanzo Meadows. In one account, Torvald is described as dying in a place that should be Newfoundland. And then the other one, it sounds like Labrador. In one, there's a place called, this is my favorite, the Thorfinn Karlsefni expedition, which in one account includes Torvald, and in the other account also includes a guy named Torvald who's not the same Torvald. Yeah, right? Isn't it great? But then he is somehow also the right Torvald. It's driving me insane.
Yeah.
He goes west out of the western settlement in Greenland, and he stops in a place called the Bear Isles. And then he goes to Helgeland. Helgeland is the land of the flat stones, typically identified as Baffin Island. There are no islands between the western settlement and Baffin Island. Not one. Could be icebergs, maybe, that had polar bears on them, and that's why they were called Bear Islands. But you want to know what's great? After they reach Helgeland from the Bear Islands, they go south for a couple of days and come to a place called Bear Island. Why'd they name it Bear Island, Aiden? Do you want to take a guess?
Were there bears on the
There
island?
was a bear on the island. Not bears, bear. There was a bear on the island. And that's also just southeast of Markland. You know what Markland means? Land of the mark. You know what the mark is? Trees. Do you know how little that narrows it down?
Yes. Yes, I do, because I'm sure almost every place has trees.
Every place in Canada has trees, except the parts that don't, and those are just called Land of the Flat Rocks.
All of them?
Yeah, they did not write very much down.
Yeah, I can see how this would be frustrating.
There's a reason that this is taking me days upon days upon days when the stories are themselves 20 pages long.
Yeah.
But anyway, they get south from Markland, and then they find Vinland. The problem is that Vinland has been identified as Newfoundland. But then they've also found coal that matches strains found in Rhode Island. And berries from Quebec. And according to all of the sagas, it seems like they all went to the same place, which can only, as far as we have archaeological evidence, can only be Lanzo Meadows. But you know where it says that they stayed? An island that is not that one. A smaller island, probably Belle Isle.
It is possible we just don't have all of the archaeological evidence that may.
Oh, we definitely don't.
Yeah.
We definitely don't. The other thing is that there is a 14th century map of the North Sea that includes the British Isles, Norway, Iceland, Greenland. And the problem is that Greenland is connected to Helgoland by land.
How different was the sea level at this?
Shouldn't have been that different. It was about the same temperature.
Really?
Oh, yeah, this is only vaguely the hottest point in our history. There was a point called the medieval climactic optimum.
Okay.
There are a few different names for it, but in Northern Europe, at least, it was hot. You could grow grapes in Sweden at this time period.
Really?
Yeah. And not like little shriveled baby grapes, like full-size grapes in Sweden. Keep in mind, this is 1,000 years before the invention of Monsanto.
Yeah. So arguably it was probably warmer than it is now. So there would have been.
Can you tell I didn't really want to talk about giants and I was struggling to do so?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
no,
fine.
it's-
We're doing what we need to do.
At this point, the show is just the show.
Yeah, the show's the show. You're here for us.
Yeah, realistically, if you're watching this show, you're here more for us.
So theoretically, it's probably warmer at this period of time, and it most likely has a higher sea level, even just marginal, even now.
It was probably, I think it's the difference. I looked into it. It was like 0.5 inches.
Yeah. But point being is that
I don't think it was higher. I think it was lower. I believe there was more ice cover.
because it was still receding from the previous maximum.
Well, no. So they were actually at that point approaching an ice age. They're the little ice age. It was like 1300s.
Then how did they have grapes in Sweden?
Again, it was like, this is the turning point. They're at the turn, but that's why it's confusing, is the way the story is described, there should have been more ice cover.
Yeah.
Because they're basically describing there being all of these islands in the sea between Greenland, basically in the Davis Strait. They're talking about there being islands that aren't there now.
The maximum you're talking about, glacial maximum you're talking about?
No, it was hot. It was a temperature maximum.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it dipped again.
Yes. So basically in the mid first millennium,
Yes.
it got really cold.
Got it.
And then it got really warm, and then it got really cold.
So my thought is that it's possible that whatever islands they're talking about were eliminated by glaciers at some point.
But the glaciers didn't get that big during the Little Ice Age.
Well,
That's the problem, is that this area should not have, like, even if you look at the seafloor, there's nothing that's even approaching the surface.
interesting.
So you kind of think they must have been icebergs. But they're not described as icebergs, they're described as islands, and they clearly knew the difference.
Maybe like a bog island?
I don't know. But basically, they go from the western settlement to the Bare Isles that aren't there. Then they go to the land of the flat stones, and then the land of the forests, which just has a island of one bear off to the southeast. And then they go south, where they go who knows where. Oh, also Torvald in the one story, it sounds like he dies on the eastern coast of Newfoundland.
Mm-hmm.
In the other one, he's described as dying on a river that flows from east to west after sailing northward with the land on the port side. So they sail north from somewhere, either Newfoundland or Belle Isle.
Mm-hmm.
They sail north and then west,
Mm-hmm.
and then the land's on the port side. They sail north and then west,
Yes.
and the land is on the port side.
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell did they go?
Were they at sea or on a river?
So they died on a river after turning in from the sea. They were on the sea, so they leave probably Belle Isle
Yeah.
or one of the islands off the coast of Newfoundland.
Yeah.
They go north.
Mm-hmm.
They turn west,
Mm-hmm.
and then the land is on their left side.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand why that's a problem?
I can't remember which river it is, but the one that feeds out from the Great Lakes.
The St. Lawrence?
Yeah. Would it not have been that?
It's a long way from where they were.
It is, but I mean that's
But that's
fine.
the thing, is if they went north and then they turned west,
Yeah.
if they're north of Belle Isle
Mhm.
by the time they go west, which is what it sounds like,
Yeah.
if this place, Streamfjord,
Mm-hmm.
if this is Belle Isle,
Mm-hmm.
and they go north of Belle Isle,
Mhm.
that's Labrador. So if you sail west from Belle Isle, you should have Labrador on your right.
Unless they're in. If I'm remembering.
Unless none of these places are actually Newfoundland.
Oh, let me look. Because I'm thinking.
Well, you might notice a little interesting thing. So scroll over to where Newfoundland is.
Well, because that's my other thought is that if they went up here, because this is technically Newfoundland. as well,
You guys can't see what he's looking at. He's looking at Labrador.
They could have been in the Hudson Bay.
That's the thing. That would have been way too far north.
How good are they considered to be at keeping records of location? Because at this point, I'm starting to doubt their record keeping.
I mean, it's all just pretty basic east, west, north, south, larboard, starboard.
Yeah.
Like, for what they give you, it's easy to read. They were good at that. They knew what they were doing.
But they didn't really mark distance much.
They basically marked it in days.
Okay.
I don't think we get how many days they traveled on that one. But then the other thing is, like, they make the crossing from Greenland to Baffin Island
Yeah.
in, I think, 2 days. That is 300 miles.
You know what the other problem is here? Is unless they
Also-
meticulously mark the weather,
Uh-huh.
the speed of the wind on a given day could vastly
They had oars.
still.
Those ships were fast. That is the one thing about Viking longships.
Yeah.
They could make the crossing from Norway to Iceland in, I believe, 3 days.
So that's the thing. Even with oars and sails combined, like the wind still has an effect to where
Yeah.
it could take it, like you could have a range of days. So depending on what the conditions were and also the sea conditions, because if you have higher waves, you're traveling a greater distance.
Yeah, there's no record of any of that.
That's the thing is like if it's high wind, low waves, and the wind's going with you and you're paddling versus wind against you, high waves.
Oh, this is my favorite example now of the
same journey
difference.
could take 2 days versus 7.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is now my favorite example of the difference between history and archaeology.
Yeah.
Because if you take the historian angle and you go, well, we're going to follow the documents, you're not in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
If you go to the archaeological angle and you go, well, we're going to look at the artifacts, it was definitely Newfoundland.
At least Newfoundland.
Yeah, there's no way to. The more I look into it, I'm like, there's no way to reconcile these two things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, the only explanation I'm coming up with is that these are describing multiple places and that Karl Sefni did not land at Newfoundland. Or at least he didn't establish settlement there. Or maybe he did, There's a place they called Hop that sounds like it's in Newfoundland. But then they also talk about, so here's the other thing. In the saga of Eric the Red, there's two different accounts. Mm-hmm. One of them is of the Skraelings, and the other is of the Unipeds. Uniped being the one-footed people. Mm-hmm. They are distinct from one another. These are described as different races.
Oh?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Doesn't make sense.
No.
Kind of implies that we're in two different locations here.
Yeah.
Now, some people have been like, oh, well, there was a group of people who only had 1 foot in Africa and they thought it was in Africa for some reason. I've come across no evidence that they did, in fact, think that this was part of Africa. Also, frustrating thing here, it can't even all be made up because Adam of Bremen mentions it in like the year 1100, so only 100 years off from this. And then also Lanzo Meadows.
What if they went to whatever the hell this is?
So that's the question.
Melville?
Does the river into it flow from east to west?
No.
No
river flows east with that.
I know.
Oh, you know what they could have messed up? They could have messed up river for Tidal Bay.
True.
And coming in on the in tide.
Yeah.
And it was flowing east to west.
They could have, but they were the greatest nautical navigators of their age.
True, but it was a new land.
True. Yeah. So I don't know. The point is,
because as far as I'm aware, there is no river that runs east to west in the eastern side of North America.
Yep.
At least none that also connects to the ocean.
Mm-hmm. This is what I'm dealing with. This is why it's been so hard to write this video.
Unless anybody, feel free to tell me I'm wrong.
Well, so here's the interesting thing. The place they call Streamfjord or Streamfirth is described as as an island where the currents on either side are particularly... Yeah, I saw that too, and I have questions. If you want to show them what you're looking at currently.
Yeah, hang on, let me...
Because there's as I'm looking around at stuff, there's just a weirdly circular river in Canada. I'm gonna see if there's anything about that on the internet, actually. Probably best to bring it up on my own maps really quick. Also, would you guys want me to like make some of the maps we've used for this stuff shareable? Because I can. But yeah, okay. Rene Levasseur Island.
All right, yeah, this is... I almost have it pulled up. This is what we are looking at.
Yeah. Just weird shaped island.
Yep, just like to give you context, in the middle of, well, in eastern Quebec, all other geological formations seem relatively normal. Mm-hmm. Like,
it's said to have been caused by the impact of an asteroid.
That would make sense, kind of. But you would think it would.
It would be a lake, not that. Maybe that's Atlantis.
Maybe. Should we go digging?
It's beyond the Pillars of Heracles, that's for sure. It's way beyond the Pillars of Heracles.
Oh, satellite view.
It's a weird island. Why is it there?
Yeah, it's a weird island, and it's a weird, essentially, moat around the island.
Yeah, it says the impact of the asteroid formed a crater roughly 100 kilometers in diameter, the center of which forms the island known today. And it became an artificial island when the Manicouagan Reservoir was flooded in 1970, merging two crescent-shaped lakes. So there were two crescent-shaped lakes around it. But still, why is it not a depression?
Okay, wait. Are you ready for something weird?
Sure.
Okay, so what if, hear me out, what if it struck so hard that the crater it created was so deep that it then opened a fissure for volcanic activity and created a volcano, which then filled in the center until the volcanic activity diminished, leaving the depression ring around the outside, but the island in the center.
I'm trying to think of a joke about the term depression ring. I feel like I should have one of those. Yeah, I don't know. I just came across it and I was like, dude, I gotta be honest. If I were some Norse explorer and I saw this, I would be so confused. Like, imagine you're sailing up one of those rivers. You're some guy from Norway. You're sailing up one of those rivers and you just start going in a circle.
Yeah.
And you're like, huh.
Oh, you'd lose your mind.
This island is perfectly circular. It's just a weird spot. I don't know. And I'm trying, like, I'm going to have to go ahead and put this all on the map because I'm really struggling. But I am coming to the conclusion that there's got to be multiple Vinlands. And I think it's pretty much undeniable at this point that they got further.
Because they seem like it.
They do record them trading some things with the natives, but coal is not one of them. And they found coal from Rhode Island.
Was there evidence of them using coal prior to coming to the New World?
They would use charcoal.
Okay, but they weren't necessarily mining and using...
No, but like peat was pretty frequently used. Coal that would have been above ground. Yeah, basically, if they had access to it, they used it.
That makes sense, but I'm more thinking of like, because I don't know to what level beneath the Earth's surface anthracite was.
I don't know if it was, I don't think it was anthracite coal.
Okay,
I think it was one of the other forms. I don't know my coal.
That's fair. Peat is wild to me.
Why?
Because
we use it to heat our homes and also make scotch for some reason.
Yes, but it's also more the fact that it's somewhere between dirt and coal.
Yeah.
Because it's basically just really compressed dirt, but it's also combustible, which
isn't it also plant material though?
Oh, it's almost exclusively plant material, but then most of the top foot or two of topsoil is plant material.
Yeah.
So I think it's primarily because of the bogs, plant material that has been compressed anaerobically, whereas topsoil frequently gets aerated, so that's how it doesn't, whatever.
Yeah.
We're getting into AP environmental science right now. I haven't done that since senior year of high school, but I think that's the reason.
Yeah.
But it's just wild that essentially mud that hasn't seen oxygen in several hundred, if not several thousand years, I don't know what time span it is, it just works.
It just works.
It just works. If you do the thing and you don't mess it up, it works.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm frustrated because this is not the only time this has happened. Do you remember the Roanoke video? Very old now.
It's weird to think that's very old now, but yes.
Do you remember how basically the situation was exactly the same? Where there was a colony and it got lost and nobody knew where anybody went. And then eventually we found it. And then there were these weird indicators that they went further inland, but then we never found them. All we found were fake stones.
Are we going to call this video the Roanoke of Canada?
That wouldn't be a bad one, but I feel like YouTube's pigeonholing us into Canada right now. So I think North America in general, probably. It's going to be something like what really happened to the lost Viking colony.
Got it.
But that's the thing is like the Kensington runestone has widely been dismissed as a fake. At the same time, if anybody was going to make it all the way to the Great Lakes, it would be the Norse.
Yeah.
Because their boats were designed for it. There is no way to go from the Baltic to the Black Sea following one river. You gotta take the boat out and drag it along the land. And they just did that for 400 years.
It helps to have logs.
But this is all kind of, the confusing part of it is what's been bugging me more than anything about it is Lanzo Meadows. Because what should be the thing that clinches the Viking settlement in North America turns out to be a major problem because it's not where it's supposed to be. All of the sagas describe a river and a lake. All of them. They are not talking about a bay. And I mean, sure, like they do mention how at low tide, some of these areas are more difficult. Like, you know, the water goes out and the sand is all there. But they say, yeah, we got into the bay and at low tide, the ocean went out and we were beached. And then we went up a river and settled around a lake. Which lake? They also talk about how the lake, in one, the river is teeming with salmon. In the other, it's halibut. One of those is a fish that goes up rivers. One of those is a sea fish that remains in the ocean.
Salmon do spend a good amount of time.
I know, but that's my point is like halibut don't go up rivers.
Yeah. Well, it should rule out rivers at least.
But that's the problem is they explicitly mention a river. The other thing, we're not sure which of these two stories is the older one.
Why not?
Because both of them have things that suggest they're the older one. I don't remember the specific details off the top of my head, but the one mentions a bishop. The other mentions that same bishop as the first, which would imply that the one that mentions that bishop as Bishop the First is the later one, because there would be no reason to call that person Bishop the First if they were the only one so far. And it kind of goes like that. There's characters that are mentioned where they would be more relevant to the later period, but then there's other things about that same saga that suggest it's older. One thing about the saga of Eric the Red, for example, Christianity heavily plays in. Saga of the Greenlanders, which starts in 986. Christianity is not a big part of it, which would suggest it's the older one. At the same time, that's the one that has Torvald going on an expedition that makes absolutely no sense. It's the less detailed of the two also. I reached out to one of the foremost Viking experts on the planet, who I had the pleasure of studying under at Penn State. Oxford guy, like the guy when it comes to the Viking Age. Shout out Benjamin Hudson. If you are interested, buy his books. I think it's Viking Pirates and Christian Princes is a good starting point. I asked him and I was like, hey, so I'm doing this thing on the Vinland colony. And I was curious to your thoughts as to which of these two sagas is the earlier one. I think it's the saga of the Greenlanders for a number of reasons, including the focus on Christianity in the saga of Eric the Red, the mention of the fact that it focuses on more characters rather than trying to tie everything into Eric the Red, who would be a bigger name later. And he was like, yeah, Greenlanders is probably the earlier one. I agree with you on that. Greenlanders also is the one where none of the directions make sense. It's also the one where Torvald just murks 8 dudes for no reason. There's no explanation of why he did it. He just sails up onto a beach and he's like, kill him. They're just chilling they're literally chilling on a beach under their canoes.
Yeah.
And he just is like, yeah, let's just kill these guys. In the saga of Eric the Red, there's already been a large scale battle between the two sides.
So it was justified.
So in the saga of Eric the Red, it's justified. In the saga of the Greenlanders, it's murder. The problem is, in the saga of the Greenlanders, the murder makes no sense. It doesn't fit with anything else that the characters do. But in the saga of Eric the Red, it does, which would suggest that's the more accurate one. Because Vikings were like the Norse, you know, and again, I keep using Norse and Vikings interchangeably here, mostly because Vikings is the term most people recognize. But the Norse were not shy about violence, even after they converted to Christianity. But they also typically didn't kill people for no reason whatsoever. It's always, oh, well, they had resources we wanted. Oh, well, they were in a place that we wanted. And Torvald does say that he wants to, you know, settle on a headland near this beach. But that doesn't mean that you got to walk up and murder a group of people who are fishing. Like, there's just no explanation for that side of it. Whereas with the Saga of Eric the Red, it makes sense.
I can't wait for this video.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to be done with this video. Like, I'm having a great time. This is some of the most fun I've had writing a video ever. It's nice to finally focus on something I actually went to school for.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But oh my God, it is so convoluted. And I'm still sitting here looking at it going, okay, I get it. Conflict with the natives, all of that. It doesn't make sense that they didn't try harder. I mean, the British, it took months to cross the ocean. It took them a couple of weeks. And they didn't have nearly the same amount of red tape to cut through. All they needed to do was go back to Norway and ask, hey, we found this thing. Can we go conquer it? Can we go settle there? And chances are they would have received Tryggvason's blessing. If not his, then they probably could have gone to Iceland and received, arms and supplies and everything from Earl Eric Håkansson. Hell, they could have gone to Ireland and asked for it. Because that's the best part, Aiden. There's multiple stories about the Irish finding new worlds across the Western Sea from 400 years earlier.
That much for... Wow.
Mm-hmm. There are 6th and 7th century stories about sometimes they're Irish pagans, sometimes they are Irish monks going across the Western Sea, finding new lands. And then the Vikings go do it, and then, Columbus goes and does it, and then John Cabot goes and does it, and we've got all of these different stories. And all of them generally describe mostly the same thing. The Irish ones usually talk about islands. It's unclear if they're talking about Iceland and Greenland or if they got farther than that. The one that really is the most intriguing, though, is obviously the Vikings. Because, and as I've found as I've been researching this more and more, is like, yeah, we know about the settlement at Vinland. But historians have kind of been keeping things close to the vest. Or at least the media hasn't really picked our brains enough. I was always skeptical of the Vinland colony being Lanzo Meadows and nothing else. There is a lot more discussion about more Viking settlements, or at the very least, more Viking trade links. Intermarrying and resource trade. It seems almost certain to me that there was a lot more activity going on. And what's weird is how little it was documented. Mm. Because if you're a historian, you look at it and you go, oh, well, this must have happened. If you're an archaeologist, you go, we're finding more and more evidence that it did, and yet we cannot nail it down. Mm. And it's frustrating. It makes me angry.
Understandably so. Well, you mentioned a moment ago about looking forward to being done with this week's videos of research. In terms of being done as well, it is question time. But
yes. Right
before diving into question time, as I pull things up, I wanted to run by you. Going back to the beginning of the show when we were talking about giants, you had mentioned something about Goliath's heritage.
Yeah.
And the one thing Did you
track it down?
I wasn't able to get to it in the book because I was focused on the conversation here, but on internet research, very briefly, I saw one thing that supposedly he is a descendant of the Rephaim.
So here, isn't that another great one? Because you know what Rephaim are?
What are they?
They're dead.
What?
Mm-hmm. It's a term for spirits who are in the underworld. in the afterlife.
Well, going back to, I don't know if it was Genesis or what we were covering recently on Weird Bible like 2 episodes ago, but the element that talks about, not being allowed to commune with the dead and things like that, necromancy, all that fun stuff, could that somehow be involved?
This is the fun part about ancient Hebrew. Rephaim is a term that definitively can mean the spirits of the dead, or at least the disembodied spirits of the dead, I guess. But there's also passages which suggest that it could refer to specific spirits of the dead, those being the Nephilim, but not while they were alive.
Interesting.
But then there's mentions of Rephaim that suggest that they were a living race at some point that were descended from the Nephilim. And then the Anakim are also described as descended from the Nephilim, which is, of course, a problem because what happened to all of the Nephilim? The flood. And the big problem here is that technically none of these are contradictory.
How so?
The terminology used to describe the flood as covering the whole earth is the same as terminology used to describe the Levant.
Which is?
Syria, Israel, Palestine.
Oh, you mean, right. You're saying essentially like what they called the world was just that area.
Could have been a local thing. Which of course then it's, well, who are these Anakim? Where'd they come from? Where are their Nephilim from? Which makes me think about the Sea Peoples. I wish our channel could be about that stuff.
Weird Bible could.
I know, but I don't have time.
We'll get there.
One day. That's my goal. I'm working a plan for a video on Nephilim into the rotation. This is the point in my life where I'm like, man, it would be nice to just have 6 months to do this.
I just had.
It wouldn't even take me that long. It'd take me a week and a half.
I just had an idea.
What?
You could do normal videos, but if there is a religious segment, we film it and we put that portion on Weird Bible.
Yeah, true.
So people who watch the Lore Lodge, if they're interested in the religious element, can go to the Weird Bible.
Not a bad plan.
Because that way it keeps people who are not interested in the Bible from having to watch it here. And it provides a space for the people who are interested in it to watch it there. If anybody likes that idea, let me know. Because we're trying to find ways to make all the channels make sense for the algorithm and for viewers. Because we know we are currently 4 channels in a trench coat, and we're trying to minimize adding any further people into the trench coat and try and remove some from the trench coats.
Yes.
That way,
well, it's more we're taking them out of the trench coat and putting them into an appropriately sized jacket.
Yes. So that way it's not concerning and people know who they are and can talk with them as they desire.
Exactly.
Yes. So
Archie can remain in the trench coat.
Yes. Archie would do wonders in the trench coat.
I don't like the way you said that. I don't like the way you said it. Just read the questions.
I'm imagining him as like in a cowboy duster kind of deal.
Oh my God. Archie, you want to come here?
Come on,
Come
buddy.
see the people?
All right, Gomb for $2 says, first, and also, I got up at 4 a.m. for work. I am eepy bye-bye. I will try, but might sleep. Have you tried setting your videos to not premiere? It might help. Also, he did leave because he needed to sleep, but he said he'll see us at Blobfest.
So, would you be normal for a second? It's Archie. I can't really ask him that. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you confused? Are you confused? Okay. Hey, buddy. Anyway, what was the question? Oh, right. The premieres.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to be talking with our YouTube rep about tomorrow. We are very confused because YouTube encourages the premieres, but at the same time, we're hearing a lot of feedback lately that the premieres might be a problem. I do want to say, because it seems a lot of people might be unaware of this, You can rewind to the beginning of the premiere while it's premiering.
Oh yeah, we do want to clarify that. It's not live, and even live things you can rewind.
Yeah.
Everything on YouTube, if you show up late, you can just tag it, bring the scrubber all the way back to the beginning, and watch from there.
Yeah, like there is literally no difference
Yeah.
between doing that and watching the video normally. I think people get confused about that because of the live chat and everything, but no, you can just go to the beginning of the video when you get there.
And if you also don't want to miss out on the live chat, just bring the scrubber back, play even a premiere at like 2 times speed or whatever speed you're comfortable listening that's higher than 1, and eventually you'll catch up to the live so that way you can keep up with the chat.
Yeah, like it's just... I think YouTube could do a lot to make premieres more obvious. I think that's the biggest problem because like everything about a premiere looks like a live.
Yeah.
It would be helpful if they had a different color. One guy was really mad at me for a while because he kept insisting we were labeling things as live and then they were just premieres. And I was like, dude, yeah, I know that the symbol looks the same, but it says premiere.
Yeah, I gotta
Like, I know it says live now,
yes.
but also it very obviously is marked premiere.
Also, Mars the Unicorn says, guys, I think everyone knows that. Go check the comments on our videos because you'd be surprised at how many people don't.
Yep, there's a lot of people that don't. I'm not trying to be condescending to the people who do know. It's genuinely trying to give some advice to the people who don't seem to be aware of
We're
that.
not judging. Not everybody uses the...
We listen and we don't judge.
Yeah, not everybody uses the platform as much as others, especially us. We grew up on it, so we know it relatively well. But yeah, there are definitely a solid percentage of people out there that don't realize that.
It might be the older crowd.
It might be. But we're just trying to help people enjoy things a little bit more easily,
Yeah.
essentially. Next is Echo Warrior, who's a new member.
Oh, hello. Thank you.
There's no way you're new. You've definitely been around here for a while.
Well, he might be a new member.
Let me know if that's true or if you essentially had to re-become a member, because
I think
that's
if you
another thing.
do re-become a member, it rejoins where you were.
Yeah. And let me know if it was an intentional re-become a member or if you somehow got kicked off, because I feel like that's a thing that... Hang on. Raise him up a little higher. There you go.
You raise me up. What a guy. He looks like a goblin. He looks like a little goblin. Little goblin boy.
Luna
Uh-huh.
has been... The more she's in the house, the more she's reminding me of Archie, because there are 4 in the morning, she will come in with the most forlorn meows. This morning, prime example, like 4:30 in the morning, like, and the problem is that a cat meowing sounds like a baby crying, and I didn't realize how strong my fatherly instincts were until this cat started inhabiting this house. Because if she meows once at 3 a.m., I'm awake.
Real daddy hours?
Yes, and this morning, I had to get up out of bed at 4:30.
Oh, yeah, isn't that sound meant to, like, mimic human
100%.
babies crying?
100%. And so, yeah, so good to know that if my child's ever in...
Cats are basically parasites.
Kinda. They give good affection and stuff.
They do.
And she brought home a bird.
Yeah, they're parasites that also hunt for you.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And they earn their keep with mice and stuff like that. It's great.
It's like a symbiotic parasite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's partnership in a sense.
Exactly.
But yeah,
This thing doesn't provide me anything.
No, he's just... That's a parasite.
That's a fair point. Oh, who's a little parasite?
But yeah, no, had to give her like 10 minutes of affection, and then she got up into her window and let me sleep again. But it's
Up into her window.
yeah. Oh, she's got a window that's next to my new desk. And it's just like, she'll saunter in every now and again, all forlorn, and just look up at me. And I'll be like, you want to be in your window, don't you? And I'll open it up, and she just goes...
I was thinking about either having one built or if I can get the time to build one myself, putting together a wooden dog crate for Ella that would have a like set of stairs on the side of it so that Archie could go and sit on top so that Ella can hang out in her doghouse and Archie can sit on top of his doghouse while I work.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of a weird version of like Snoopy and what is it? Woodstock?
Woodstock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An all canine version of Snoopy and Woodstock.
Exactly.
Love it. Trains and stuff. Let's go. For $2 says, long live the squonk.
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 Gosh darn it, for a Canadian $2 says the high protein diet account for the height.
Of the Giants.
Yeah, I read account as like social media.
Yeah, that exactly. That it's like,
yeah, the high protein diet could account for the height.
it can definitely account for being taller than average, for sure.
Yeah.
Which, in the case of both cannibals and people who eat lots of llamas.
Yeah.
I can't believe they never figured out battle llamas.
Well, if they were giants.
No, I just mean in general, like South Americans in general. Can you imagine being some Spaniard coming ashore and there's just an armored llama?
What age did they get up to? Like bronze, copper, iron? None?
No.
Okay. I thought they had, or was that just gold?
Well, they had gold. They didn't care about it much.
Honestly based. No, but I thought they had some level of armor and weaponry that was like bronze or something. No?
Not in South America or really North America. The Aztecs used obsidian weapons.
That's pretty baller.
Which, like, if you don't have metalworking and you get to obsidian weaponry first, you don't really have a reason to do metalworking.
Yeah. And did they just not? Well, I guess culturally they were really like hyper aggressive in the sense of like,
The Aztecs?
weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so like
brutally aggressive.
yeah. So armor was just kind of probably looked down upon.
It's hard to say. It's one of those weird things because,
Didn't they have that
In-
like if you
in-
lost, you died?
well, yeah. I think that might have been the Maya.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, well, it was that you were sacrificed.
Right.
The winner, no, it was the winner was sacrificed. Being sacrificed was a good thing.
Yeah.
There were a lot of differences between European and North American cultures.
We really just kind of skip right over most of South American and Central American history, and
We don't know much about it up until the 1500s. That's the problem.
that's fair.
Everything we figured out about the pre-1500 period is from archaeology. It does not help that one specific Spanish priest burned a ton of material on the Mayans. Not necessarily their own material, because I don't believe they wrote on paper or vellum, but a lot of stuff that had been accumulated was destroyed.
Did he give a reason?
The typical reason you would expect from a Spanish Catholic in the 16th century.
Heresy?
Yeah, heresy, witchcraft. It's not Christian. That stuff. Like don't get me wrong, that the extent to which that happened is definitely overblown. But it did happen on a few occasions.
And it was bad.
Yeah. Not ideal.
Yeah.
Suboptimal, you might say.
Aaron for $2.86, love the specificity, says, "What's up, guys? I turned 19 today."
There's a meme.
What?
There's a meme about a kid who's 19, doesn't know how to read. It was from the Vine days. What was it?
Oh, what's up? My name's Aaron. What's up? My name's Kyle. I'm 19 and I don't know how to read.
That just immediately popped in my head. Well, congratulations on making it past being 18.
Yes, happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
You're almost out of your teens.
You've
Well
almost
done.
beaten teen pregnancy.
Yes. Also, love the profile picture. It's from Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
Big fan. Huge fan. R.I.P.
Don't
Kevin
say.
Conroy. Got a chance to meet him at the NYC Comic Con. That was cool.
Oh my God, I just realized this is the last time we're going to do the podcast down here.
As long as the
As
Wi-Fi.
long as the Wi-Fi holds up.
Yeah. It's almost as bad as us, and I know Kat's here somewhere, and she'll appreciate this, us making all of that wonderful wood paneling and then using it for, I think, a month.
Yeah. We found this place.
Yeah.
There was also a problem with the fact that Sedona Tap House couldn't be bothered to play music at a reasonable volume. We don't like Sedona Tap House here at the Lodge. We also don't like Scully Management Group, which is an apartment management group here in Southeast Pennsylvania, who has been trying to get me to pay them over $3,000 in move-out fees between the month of rent they forced me to pay. Actually, it's closer to $4,000 at this point. Between the month of rent they forced me to pay, despite the fact that I was not living there and that I had written permission from the previous management to leave at any time because the apartment was unlivable due to the noise from downstairs that I was explicitly told would not exist, because I was told there was nobody underneath me and that I didn't have to worry about sound from underneath me. This was a selling point they gave me. So then when I left, the management had just turned over to this group called Scully. And not only did they refuse to honor that, they kind of half honored it. And they were like, well, you don't have to pay the early move out fee. And I was like, cool. I'm also not supposed to have to pay rent I'm not supposed to have to give you 60 days notice. I'm supposed to be able to leave whenever I find another apartment, because that was the whole point of the deal, was that I needed to be able to leave as soon as I found another apartment. And how often do you find another apartment 2 months in advance? Like, you find an apartment when you find an apartment. So they charged me $2,500 in rent for a month I didn't live there. And then when I moved out, they tried to charge me for water and sewer. They tried to charge me additional rent. They tried to charge me a late fee that I explicitly told them I wasn't paying because I had to wait a month for them to fix a light bulb. So I was like, well, I mean, you aren't holding up your end of the contract. There's no reason I should have to either. And here's the thing. If they had been like, hey, you know, can you pay us the late fee after you move out? I would honestly have done it. I'd been like, you know what, just to wrap everything up, sure. But instead, they have fought me for months to try and get me to pay this money, which even after the rent is $1,500 in move-out expenses. And you know what I found out? 1,000 of that was carpet replacement, which not only is that considered routine maintenance, and I have proof of this in that when I moved out of my previous apartment, they did not charge me for carpet replacement, even though Ella tore one of them up. Ella did tear up a part of one of the carpets in that apartment. There were 2 separate carpets in that apartment. They charged me for the replacement of both, even though only one was damaged. They could provide no proof that the second one was damaged. They could provide no proof that it had to be replaced for any reason. And when I was on the phone with them, they just kind of like explained it away. And then when I wrote to them expressing all of these problems, rather than writing back, they told me they were going to call collections. So if you live in the southeastern Pennsylvania area and you are considering a Scully management owned property, don't. Because they're bad people. Like, I mean, even by corporate landlord standards, these guys suck.
Yeah.
Also, I can't, like, the one thing that really gets me is the property manager who, despite the fact that she gains absolutely nothing from trying to force me to pay this money and makes an enemy of somebody who still lives in the community. Keep in mind, a business owner in the community who is probably not somebody you want to piss off. But she gains nothing from this. She's an employee. She doesn't get a bonus. She doesn't get a cut. If she does get a cut of whatever the move out fees are, that's illegal because she's just going to write stuff up to get it. Now, granted, it is partially on me for not insisting that I be present during the inspection, but I just wanted out of there by that point. And I was like, I have a security deposit. That'll cover it. And then they just chalked up all these different random charges. So this is my official de-endorsement of anything Scully Management Company owned. Because not even like just for your own good. You know, we make sure to advertise products we think are good. This is me telling you, be careful. These people are predators.
Fair enough. Yeah. Anything corporate owned, you're entering a higher level of risk because it is less humane by the nature of running a business on a corporate level.
Mm-hmm. I am an Angie boy.
Yeah.
I will be leaving now that they've gone to the step of telling me they're calling collections. I am going to be leaving just the most scathing of Google reviews.
Fair.
Yeah.
Daniel Franklin Henry Jr. has been a member for 8 months.
Thank you.
And Gomb is saying to remember to keep the badonks visible for our good old goon down in the south for the calendars, because that's important.
Horrible.
And that was a tame version of what he said.
Oh.
And
was the term badussy used?
Close.
All right.
Close. Yeah. Elena DeHowler, Werewolf Queen for $4.99 says, after researching for Friday's video, what do each of you think is actually going to be the cases covered? Or going on with the cases covered?
Which video? Wait, which one are we talking
I
about?
think the Giants things. I think we kind of touched on that.
Yeah. I think in most cases, the issue is that you've got people who really want to believe in giants who are kind of missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah. I think that's valid.
Like there's not only do we not have any physical evidence, but we also don't like the documentary evidence doesn't match.
Yeah. Trains and Stuff for 556, love the specificity,
Woo!
says, this will be my last super because he's going to get lost in the woods looking for something of Bigfoot's. He is going to become the top predator.
Archie didn't like that either. Good luck. I have a legal firm if you encounter trouble.
Yeah. Gomb for $2.01, love the specificity, says, I bring a large box to Blobfest, minimum 50 pounds.
What's in the box?
I have a feeling...
Did you just hit your butt on the table?
I think you did. I have a feeling it's going to be chalky milk.
Dude, if it's chalky milk, I will do things to you. Good things. With my mouth. I hope you're not a minor. After saying that.
I hope Amanda's aware of this.
She'll understand. She knows I like my chalky milk. She got me a giant thing of chalky milk from Wegmans today. So I'm going to be giving her a big old smooch.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got all natural peanut butter today. Wow, you really got to mix that stuff up.
Yeah. It gets oily.
Yeah. I'm on a...
Stuff is more oily than a teenage boy's face.
Okay, fair. All right. Once all that sentence processed, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Anyway, moving on. I am on a tirade to eliminate vegetable oil from my diet.
Okay.
It is amazing how many things on a grocery store shelf.
You're not including peanut oil as vegetable oil, right?
No.
Okay, I was like, naturally occurring oils are all right.
No, they're fine. They're fine. And like extra virgin olive oil, like anything that's not squeezed.
Gonna unvirgin your olive oil.
Oh dear.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Ain't that a threat?
Yeah, that sounds like a form of harassment.
I like how all that means is that it's not cut with other oils.
Yeah.
If olive oil doesn't say extra virgin, it means it's probably got like some kind of other oil in it.
Yeah.
Seed oil, canola oil.
Yeah.
So I want somebody on Facebook today, or you know how sometimes Facebook will show you a random group you're not part of because it thinks you'll like it?
I'm going to say yes, even though I don't.
Right, you don't use Facebook that much. Anyway, point is, it showed me like a steak group. And I'm like, oh yeah, I like steak. Cool. Caption is that granted, it was a very well done medium rare. It was a very good looking medium rare. I realized that didn't make much sense. It was a very good looking medium rare.
Well achieved medium rare.
But he cooked it in grapeseed oil?
Like deep fried it?
No. Just instead of clarified butter or olive oil, he pan-seared it in grapeseed oil. You don't need to cook a steak in anything but butter.
So I could understand if he was trying to emulate like a wine reduction, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
No, it was innocent. I think he just didn't know any better. He was like, oh well, you need oil.
Experiment, yeah.
I think he probably realized that butter smoke point was too low for what he was trying to get for the sear he was trying to get.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, like the best way to cook a steak is probably a reverse sear, but
yeah, if you're cooking anything inside pan searing, do what you can to get some form of ventilation. Yeah. No matter what kind of oven or stovetop you have, gas, electric, doesn't matter. It's nice to be able to vent that stuff out.
Yeah. Also, when are we going to stop pretending sous vide is an okay way to cook things? I get it. Sous vide makes delicious steaks. Very tender. It's a great way of achieving the perfect balance of texture and not kill you. Except for the fact that you are essentially like low boiling something in microplastics.
Oh, that's not great.
Yeah, it's sous vide is you vacuum seal the steak in plastic and put it into 135 degree water.
Yeah, I don't love that. Also, Christian, I'm definitely interested in trying that.
What'd he say?
He said, OMG, you would really dig clarified butter. We are 100% processed oil free.
Christian, you gave me a giant thing of clarified butter, and I just haven't bothered to make my own yet. It was perfect. It was the best thing I've ever used.
Last night, Kat and I, so
Josh talk.
I wish. No, so as a housewarming present for me moving in, Kat's mom. So last time we went to go visit Kat's family, Kat's mom made a rotisserie, beef, like not a brisket, like a roast, in a rotisserie. And it had been a long time since I'd actually seen anything rotisserie other than just grabbing the bag of the chicken in Giant. And I was amazed at how well it cooked and how simple it was and how much you didn't have to touch it. So she got us a rotisserie and we did rotisserie, like lemon and herb chicken. I think it was lemon and what's the rosemary?
I don't know. You gotta put a tray of potatoes beneath it.
Yeah, well, we put a tray. We didn't put the potatoes beneath it. We cooked them separately.
Oh, dude, you gotta let the potatoes cook in the drippings.
I think it's a good move. But yeah, no, I'm gonna start wanting to rotisserie a lot more things because wow, yeah, that is if you want whatever you're cooking to remain as like juicy as possible and you're not grilling it, that's the way to go.
Yeah,
that is wow. I'm excited by that.
You really sound like it.
I like eating meat and having a fantastic way to like prepare it with very minimal effort.
Isn't it weird how exciting these things get as you age?
Yeah,
you're psyched about your rotisserie. I got an espresso machine from my parents.
We're sprinting towards 30.
It's rough.
Like, to be fair, I'm at the point in my life where I've been waiting for this since high school.
That's fair.
Where all of our friends have less and less interest of going out on the weekends.
Well, no, it's not that they have less interest in going out on the weekends. It's that we've stopped being like, oh, I'm going to go get hammered at the bar. And instead it's like, I'm going to go drink manicured cocktails at my lodge.
Yes. Or like, now we're like, hey, like, what about like doing hikes once it gets warmer and
or
stuff?
game nights.
Or game night. Yeah.
Dude, I love a good old game night.
Oh,
we got to have we got to have a night where we stick all the girls into one room and then we have the boys in another room to play Risk.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that we need girls can't play Risk. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the things I'm going to say to my opponents will be so horrific that I don't want the women to hear it.
It'll make a 2010 Xbox Live lobby sound like PBS.
I'm going for like a 1998 Quake lobby.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I am going to be saying things that have not been said on the internet in 30 years.
Kat just said I want to play Risk with a sad face.
You can play Risk, just maybe round 2 once I've gotten all the aggression out, you know?
Either that or just don't yell at him when he says bad things.
I once had to ask Sean why he brought citrus into the war room. Like that's how intense I get about these things.
There.
You were there.
Yeah.
Were you there when I accidentally gave myself a mild concussion?
No. What?
Yeah.
When?
I don't know. There was, for some reason I was doing like the Mario, like, boom.
Oh.
I have a video of it. I don't remember why it happened.
Norman definitely took the video.
Oh, for sure. I also have one of Tommy very, very, very inebriated going on a little rant about how cute a girl was and then going, don't film me. Like obviously knowing he was being filmed. And at the end, he's like, don't film me.
Oh, that's great.
It's one of my favorite videos.
That's so good. Yeah, my favorite time playing Risk was when I made the Mecha Tower in Britain.
Should we live stream a Risk game?
I think we should.
Yeah.
For those of you who may or may not know how Risk works, you start off getting like a country or location on the map, and then every turn you get a few like men. And there were 4 of us playing, and I was in Britain, and so I had to cross the sea to try and get anything else, and everyone else was really close and had more people. So I just decided to do actually what Britain did best.
It's a strategy that's called turtling in the game of Risk. It's just usually you do it in like South America or Australia.
Yeah, I did it on the British Isles.
Now keep in mind, there's approximately 4 different ways to invade the British Isles in the game of Risk.
Yes, but here's the thing, is that it got to the point where I had so many people that I couldn't fit them on the British Isles, so I subbed in a dice to represent 50 units. And inevitably, I had a tower of about 7 dice stacked on top of one another, and they were so focused on fighting each other that I think only once it got to 4 or 5 dice high did they realize what was happening. But by then, none of them had enough resources to attack me, and I kept not attacking.
Yep.
So it was just waiting and waiting for me to finally decide to just wipe the map. And then I think it ended with a truce between Sean and I,
Maybe.
because he had Australia.
I think this was the game where Wade and I took each other out,
Yes, you two took each
which
other
is
out.
does not narrow it down. That was almost every time we played Risk.
Yeah.
Was we'd kill Norman
Yeah,
because Norman is simply too passive.
yeah,
And then Sean would be turtling in Australia, and then whoever the other players were would end up like fighting each other. And how it always went was that Wade and I would kind of be like, "All right, don't share borders. Let's divvy things up." And then once we come to a point where it's just us left, then we fight.
yeah.
And inevitably, every single time, Wade would stab me in the back at some point. And it would always be when there were 2 other players left in the game.
Yeah,
Because he wouldn't want to attack the person turtling.
yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is because this was one of the rare times where Sean was being active.
Yeah.
And I think it was because, like, I think he was turtling to begin with. I think someone attacked him
Yeah.
early. And so he didn't
That was
get
probably either me or Wade.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah, that was
Good
great.
old times. I miss Risk.
Yeah, we'll bring it back.
We could do... we could make some custom maps and, like, do an entire campaign
Yeah,
and record it like it's a legitimate war.
yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Or play Axis and Allies. It only takes 6 hours to set up.
We also need to do another Drunk Folklore and bring back the candlelight sessions. I figured that should actually... We could do that as a Patreon-only live stream that would lead into either Drunk Folklore or something else that we already do.
Good God, you want me to get drunk and then?
No. Reverse.
Oh, okay, yeah. Whew, I might be able to do that.
Although we did do that.
Yeah,
on
we did,
Saturday.
yeah.
It worked out.
We didn't finish a single song.
Yeah, we did.
We did?
We finished Time of Your Good Riddance.
Oh, yeah.
We finished Free Fallin'. We finished...
My favorite was Brian asking me to play Wonderwall as I was actively playing Wonderwall.
Yeah. My favorite was Wags asking me to play 16 songs and none of them I'd ever heard of before. I'm sorry.
I got through... I played Say It Ain't So by Weezer for the first time on stage a decade ago. I have never learned the bridge.
Yeah.
Never learned the bridge.
Yeah. There was a song, I tried learning it yesterday because I was like, oh, we should do this more. And what was it? But essentially it was like one of those early 2000s songs that like everyone knows. Because I'm like, oh, if we just learn a bunch of these, it'll make everybody happy.
Since you've been gone?
No, something like that though. And I realized the bridge, just not necessary in that song. Nothing happens. There's no lyrics. And then it goes into a little solo. And then back to the chorus. It's just the whole thing's...
Is it Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls?
No, but it is on the same playlist and it's like...
Because that solo is not necessary. Like that bridge is not necessary, but it is beautiful.
That's fair.
Yeah. We have more
closing
questions.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the bridge is annoying because it's like A flat, B flat, F flat, something else. I was like, I don't want to play this. Totally Not JMO for $11.03. Thank you very much. I appreciate the specificity.
Want to take my bones. What?
If only parodies.
We're still cool.
Yeah.
Remember the Key of Awesome?
I do.
Good times.
Great times.
All right.
Anyway. The milk floweth for all time. For through it thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy shall increase. Of thy like shall increase. Drink it, for it will bestow gifts upon thee. Have inspiring philosophy on.
Working on that one.
That's bad about guests recently.
That's really just been an issue of us like being like, hey, you want to come on? Him going, yeah. And us being like, you want to do this date? And then we don't hear back from him. And then he's like, do you guys still want me to come on? And we're like, yeah, we'll get you a date. And then we don't get him a date. So
you want me to start handling this?
That might be better.
Okay. Where are you? Or are you talking on social
Mostly
media?
Instagram. That's the problem, is that I have to...
I should be able to work with that through Hootsuite.
Maybe.
I think so.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll figure it out. I probably just got to get people's phone numbers.
Yeah. Or at the very
We
least,
have
email.
those.
Yeah. Alex Black Falk for Canadian $5 says, first time catching a live. Curious if y'all had heard about the case of Cam McLeod and Brian Schmegelski. Really
That's
weird.
Hey McLeod.
McLeod.
Yeah, that's McLeod.
Cam McLeod.
You can't call people Cam McLeod. You can't do that.
It's Leod. Load.
In what universe is Leod pronounced load?
In what universe is it pronounced loud?
Scotland.
Well, in America. That sounds an awful lot like load.
Oh, good God. Hey, what was... I got distracted by your dropping loads.
Cam McLeod and Brian Schmegelski.
Those are not real names. You are not telling me there's a man named Brian Schmegelski.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like there probably isn't anymore. I hope these are older cases, otherwise I'm going to feel bad if this is somebody who went missing like last week.
You want to find out?
God, I probably should, so I can apologize. This is the problem, is that I am so acquainted with the horrors.
Oh, it was 2019.
Oh, no. Oh, I am sorry. I've become so acquainted with the horrors that I forget when it's appropriate to make jokes about them.
Yeah, we talk about things like this on a daily basis, and then we go to social events and we tell people what we do for a living, and then we suddenly realize that we're telling an accountant that we're covering like 3 children being like...
Yeah, the solder children, just people disappearing in a fire, it's fine.
Yeah, or like, you know, the one who was thrown off the cliff, who was like 5 and had evidence of, you know, not great things. Yeah.
Yeah.
The conversations end kind of quickly.
I fully expect that one day I will have to seek treatment.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad if I ever develop some kind of like psychosis.
No, I think
My brain's going to have too many things to draw on.
I think we're just a lot more numb to everything. Because it seems like everyone else is really...
Well, I have become uncomfortably numb.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is I feel like everybody's freaking out right now, and I'm just kind of like, it could be worse.
Yeah. It helps give a lot of...
It could get worse.
Like, if your children aren't actively dying, things are kind of okay. For those who may be going through that, I'm sorry to hear that.
I don't know, I'm just constantly kind of like, that might as well happen.
Yeah. And the best for me is when something happens and everybody's really surprised, and you sit there and you're like, this is entirely within the realm of their character and things they've been doing for years.
It's just, I'm over it.
Yeah.
Things can stop happening now.
Yeah.
Enough has happened.
I think everyone forgets that, like, the meme of everybody like, I want to stop living through history. That's always been happening.
Yeah. It's just you weren't aware of it.
History didn't stop.
Social media has just made you acutely aware of all the happenings.
Yeah. That's another thing, is like, people forget more things aren't happening.
We'd all be much happier if there was no social media.
Yeah.
You and I would not have this job.
No, we wouldn't.
But so
great.
most people would be much happier without social media.
Yeah. Next from Chimp with a Hand Grenade for $4.99 says, can't wait to traumatize Mattis when Alex and I unveil the trench coat of Alex's along with the Project Space Roosevelt's. What?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't know.
I swear to God, sometimes you say things just to confuse me.
Of course they do.
They've also created like 4 new slurs during our Sons of the Forest live streams. None of them are ethnic.
Well, that's good.
They're all job related. Log pusher has become a slur somehow.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm all right with this then.
Yeah.
All right. I may butcher your name here. Noaiba? 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 Noaiba?
Noiba?
No, Noaiba. No.
Yeah, I'm lost on that one too.
Yeah. Noaiba. If I'm wrong, let me know. Is that €5? I believe.
It's just fine.
First time I catch you on stream, it's 12 6:15, I believe, here in Spain. Good night, everyone.
Oh, right. You guys use the 24-hour clock over there.
Why do you do that? I was there. I've been there. I still don't understand why you do this.
Well, I'm glad you caught us for a moment at midnight.
I'm so glad you're here.
So glad.
Please answer my question. It's so unnecessary. I don't want to have to add
Also, like,
2 to each number.
I know that it's probably because we don't do this I think England, they use the 12-hour, right?
No, see, but here's the thing.
Oh, no.
Like, some people do that on their phones, but, like, there are plenty of analog clocks that are still 12.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, like, over in the UK, they still use the 12-hour, right? Like,
yeah.
like colloquially. Yeah. But, like, in English, it's 12 o'clock. From what I recall of Spanish, it's not that. It's hours that they use. So it's like 1,200 hours.
Oh, I see.
Like 14 hours. The problem is in English, that doesn't work because you can't see. 17 o'clock sounds wrong.
Yeah, no, that's horrible.
Like, also, I love how many things from in the English language just come from people colloquially saying "oh" instead of or on. Like jack-o'-lantern.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Jack of the Lantern.
Jack of the Lantern.
Yeah.
I do.
12 o'clock, 12 of the clock.
I will say. Oh, what was it? Kat, tell me. There was a word. There was a word I spelled on the Wordle that.
That didn't feel like a real sentence.
Yeah. There was a word that I spelled on the Wordle that apparently was in fact a word, but it's an outdated version of that word.
Like diverse, meaning like being able to say like a number of things.
Different. More like color with a U.
Oh.
But it was, I can't remember what word it was, but like I'd seen it plenty of places before, like growing up. Like I think like it was like ease or something like that. Something like that, like similar sounding. And I feel like I'd seen it in like old oil cans or something like that. And apparently, like, no one uses it anymore. Like, for the last, 50 to 100 years. Like, nobody's used it. But it was the thing. And I don't know, I remember Kat got so upset about it. She was like, that's not a real word. That's wrong. And I was like...
That's why I like Scrabble. If it's in a dictionary, it's a word.
Yeah. Yeah. Another interesting name is Dicoletos. Dicoletus. Dicoletus.
Wow.
For $2, says, could I hear your interpretation of Isaiah 60:16? We have a great show this Thursday that is right up this alley.
Now I gotta find it.
I'm in Isaiah 41. That's Jeremiah.
Isaiah 66, Isaiah 53. It was Isaiah 60 what?
Isaiah 60:16. In this one, it's you shall... Oh, God. You want to read it or you want me to? We got 2 different versions here.
You have an RSV.
Yeah.
Well, in the very poetic King James. All right. Thou shalt also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shalt suck the breast of kings, and thou shalt know that I, the Lord, am thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob.
So not too different in the RSV. You shall suck the milk of nations, you shall suck the breast of kings, and you shall know that I, the Lord, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. Amen. Do you remember what word it was?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah, Isaiah contrasts the glories of the millennial kingdom with the inglorious conditions of Israel before the exile. Verse 16 draws on a figure of Deuteronomy 33:19 to show the luxuriant quality of life in that future time. Verse 16 draws on a figure in Deuteronomy 33:19 to show the luxuriant quality of life in that future time. Who is the figure from Deuteronomy 33:19?
Hang on, I gotta say, I'm surprised you guys don't do this more on Weird Bible, where you just make us read like unhinged verses.
Especially in the message.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what's 6016 in the message?
God. Oh, no. At this point, I think the live show is just going to become us chit-chatting and you guys horrifying us in multiple ways.
Isaiah 60:16 in what I believe is the message.
Oh, it's not much better. 33:19 Deuteronomy is, they shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of treasures hid in the sand.
Hang on.
What?
I'm trying to find where this actually starts. So that's
In the message, because the message combines verses.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see it.
Hang on. Descendants of your oppressor instead of bronze.
Oh, God, I hate this.
Okay, wait, hang on. So it should be right above here. Oh, yeah, here we go. Here we go. When you suck the milk of nations and the breasts of royalty, you'll know that I, God, am your savior, your redeemer, champion of Jacob. I'll give you the best. I'll give you only the best. No more hand-me-downs. No more hand-me-downs. Oh, who wrote this?
I am so offended.
No more hand-me-downs.
I mean, I guess.
Anyway, Weird Bible on Thursday.
We're talking about Elijah.
Totally not Jamwood for 526. Love the specificity. Says, in this time of Lent, I have given up YouTube and TikTok. This shall be one of my last supers. I shall now tell that the Tartarians are among us. Oh, God, are we going to have to redo the Tartaria thing again? I just brought this up last
You
week.
did. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know how much more clear I could be.
I want to rewatch these because I feel like there's more stuff we could cover. And
There was.
really just get just absolute, like, point for point.
There sure was.
Anthony Tiff for $5 says, are you guys ever going to get back to Weird Bible? And by the way, that's cool. You guys are Methodists. I'm Episcopalian personally. Well, I was raised Catholic.
I am a Methodist seeking an apostolic church right now, but every time I find one, they do something that I'm like, oh.
What the Lutherans do?
I haven't really looked very hard at the Lutherans yet.
'Cause I know you went to a Lutheran church at one point.
I was in the band.
No, didn't you go like a couple months ago?
Oh no, that was an Orthodox.
Oh, right.
Very different.
Right.
Also, I have to use the restroom so bad.
Go.
Can I? Can you handle this alone?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know, man.
As long as you don't mind me answering questions without you here. Yeah, come on in. You sure? Are you good with us getting through some questions?
What's up?
All right. Guys, this is my girlfriend, Kat.
Hi. I
Get a little closer
on the
to
show. I existed on the show before I was your girlfriend.
This is fair. There was a solid period of time where she was on the Lore Lounge, which many of you may not know of its existence, and I was never there because there was kind of an inside joke that I thought it was funny that there was someone else on the channel that I had never met. So for a solid, 6 months maybe?
Sure.
Incredible. They're
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
the old mics you're used to.
I'm sorry. I'm used to the karaoke mics at Molly's across the street.
Yes. All right, so we are getting back to Weird Bible, as I said multiple times. It is this Thursday.
So exciting.
And
Big
yeah,
show.
I believe it or not, so this book on top will say my high school, the Episcopal Academy. I may have raised Catholic, but I went to an Episcopalian school, so nice. Zork the Destroyer for Canadian 243 saying Goliath was a Rephaim a fake. We did talk about him being a Rephaim a little earlier. but I'll bring that back up when Mattis is here. Chip with the hand grenade for $4.99 says, I decided to look up the message translation of David versus Goliath, and dear Gord, it was insane. 1 Samuel 17:32-50. I bet it was. Bring that back up on Thursday, because I want us to have Isaiah have to go through that.
Yes.
And then Zork the Destroyer saying Goliath's ancestry is lightly touched on indirectly when David's killing his brothers, also giants. 2 Sam 21 and 1 chapter 2. Remind chat, like normal chat, remind me about that in a moment. Kellen, do you have any thoughts on the giants? You do watch our videos.
No, I do watch your videos. So here's the thing: is I jumped in to this podcast at entirely the wrong time.
Why?
Because I have negligible religious upbringing.
Oh no! But
whatsoever.
here's the thing.
But so it's like you guys are talking about like specific passages in the chat. Says like, oh no, this was not the geological section of live chats to be like going through currently.
So just based on the videos you've seen about giants,
No.
what are your thoughts?
Oh, don't ask me this. Don't ask me this because I'm going to be pessimistic.
That's okay.
I think it was an exaggeration.
Do you think it was kind of because my description of what that essentially would be is emergent mythology?
Yeah, I think sometimes people can seem like larger than life and can seem like, you know, like maybe they've got kind of a taller stature, but the way that they carry themselves makes them feel like absolutely giant. And I think it's kind of those like exaggerations that get passed down because that makes a good story. And
As Orson Welles always said, never ruin a good story with the truth.
Exactly. So I hate to say I hate to be on this podcast and being like, oh, I'm pessimistic. Ooh.
Like what is that?
Malcolm Mance. All right, get back in the chair. You deserve.
Is Malcolm X an individual or is that a story?
He's an individual.
What is his background?
You'll just have to look him up.
Okay. Fair enough.
He's one of those guys that's like, look at me, I'm so badass. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like if Jason Segel was a real guy. Not Jason Segel.
Steven Seagal?
Steven Seagal. That's what I was thinking of.
He is a real guy.
No, I mean like if he was a, well, you know what I mean.
Next week's video, Jason Segel is a psyop. He doesn't exist.
No, you know what I mean. Like if Steven Seagal is
was propaganda.
Steven Seagal is an actor who pretends to be a badass in his movies.
Yes. Not just his movies.
I know, but
You've seen the videos of him in real life, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Malcolm Nance like goes to Ukraine and pretends that he was a sniper.
Okay, got it. Also, did you hear anything about the 2 Bible verses that were brought up?
No, what were they?
So Chimp with the hand grenade said that in the message translation of the story of David versus Goliath, it is rather insane. I said we should bring that up on a Weird Bible at some point because it is 17:32-50, so it's a lot to go through right now. And then apparently when David is killing his brothers, it is lightly touched on what Goliath's ancestry is.
Gotcha. I knew it was there somewhere. Oh, really quick though, because I wanted to bring it back around in the Giants section, but we got off track before I got to it.
Yep. Shocking.
The David and Goliath one is uniquely believable. Not because of the size. The size is obviously like questionable. But the story of how he kills him makes sense for Goliath being a giant. Because he hits him with a sling, and this is not a slingshot. This is a war sling. These things were brutal. Goliath is wearing a helmet. It hits him in the head, doesn't kill him, but it does give him a concussion. And then David walks up and kills him with a sword. So as far as descriptions of how to kill a giant go, he knocks him out with a sling, and then he stabs him. All the other ones, it's like, yeah, we put monocles on a guy who's 12 foot tall.
You know,
Manacles, not monocles. That's a different thing.
I really think that Christian churches and schools are doing a massive disservice of teaching the childrenized versions of these stories
To adults?
because they never update them for adults. like
The number of times I've encountered people who think the Sunday school version of something is the biblical account is appalling.
Christians, pick up the slack here. Like you are misrepresenting your faith.
Oh, every day I'm on Instagram and I come across somebody and I just have to comment, please, for the sake of all of us, stop talking. My favorite are the times when it's like Christian influencers and they're like, you know, they try to like, you know, corner me on something and like get all in my face about like whatever weird version of, you know, Protestantism they're preaching. And I say that as a Methodist. And I just have to kind of sit there and be like, no, you're a Christian influencer. I'm a Christian influencer.
Yeah.
I'm not doing content constantly because that's not the content I make.
Yeah.
But I'm still more accurate than you.
Yeah.
When I do talk
you
about
do have a minor in religious studies.
This is like I think I said last time. This is one of those fields where if you don't have at least some formal education, you probably shouldn't try and make yourself a representative. And by formal education, I don't mean you did Bible study at your local church. I mean you went to school and you studied under scholars.
Every day I begin to understand more your argument about how you're coming around to the understanding of apostolic succession in the Catholic Church. Because
I was very against it in college. And as I've gotten older and more experienced, I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
Even Isaiah, who is a hardcore Baptist, was like, the last time we did Weird Bible, it said something along the lines of the best churches he's ever been to were independent Baptist churches, and the worst churches he's ever been to were independent Baptist churches.
Yeah.
I fully agree with that. It is one of those situations where you are going to get probably the best teachers are probably going to come from Protestant traditions, and the worst teachers are definitely going to come from Protestant traditions.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot more consistency. You're going to have high quality teachers consistently with the Orthodoxy and in many cases with the Catholics as well.
That's it.
They're just very bound by dogma.
I don't care what channel it is. We got to have you
I know.
and Alex O'Connor have a conversation.
I don't want to.
Why not?
Because then I got to be nice.
Yes. He's at least well educated.
Okay, fine. I feel he's disingenuous and intellectually dishonest.
Everything I've seen from him, he hasn't been.
Maybe we'll sit down and do a reaction stream.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Because I think it would be a really interesting conversation.
I'll sit down and I'll do a reaction stream to his Jubilee thing.
Yeah, most of the people that he talks with are not. You are the same style.
That's what it is about it that bugs me. Is a lot of the people he talks to are not educated.
But they are. But the thing is that they are kind of what you were talking about. They are presenting themselves as authorities,
which you shouldn't do.
And that's the thing.
I am so tired of 18-year-old influencers who are Christian, like going on the internet and talking about Christianity.
Oh, but he talks to people like, oh God, what's his
No, I'm sure he does. But like my point is that what I was saying is like, look, I appreciate it. I think it's not a bad thing at all to be open about your faith and, you know, if you want to share like your testimony and all that, which is a very Protestant thing, by the way, because like even I grew up Christian. There was never a moment for me where I was like born again because I've been Christian the whole time.
Yeah.
So like a lot of born again Christians have this whole thing about sharing their testimony, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily. But once it gets outside of the Christian community, it can often look cultish in the way they talk about it. Because born again Christians have a tendency to be very, and this is not a bad thing, very passionate, very intense. That is typically the people who don't drink, who are like a lot of people who it's frequent with people who have been in prison or they have fallen away from the faith and then come back to it. things like that, where you get why they're passionate and why this is such an important story to them. It's kind of like people who are in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I understand why that might sound like a diss. It's not. It's just like people who have been alcoholics, when they get sober, are very intense about remaining sober. People who were probably, you know, raised Christian, fell away from it pretty hard, and then came back, are very intense about their Christianity. But a lot of it, when you put it online and you're making it for other Christians of that same denomination, sort of, those people will understand it. They have the context for it. But even to me, I'll see some of these and I'm like, whoo, that is a way of seeing things, that's for sure.
It's a little bit beyond faith.
It gets a little bit too emotional.
Yeah.
And departs from an exegetic scriptural position. And I'm not saying it's all the time, but I see it pretty frequently. And I think part of the problem is that you have a lot of online Christian communities that are encouraging you to do that more and more, because to them, it's a good thing. And in some cases it is, but also there's going to be times when that's not the right way to communicate. And
this is an entirely separate conversation from those who are essentially asserting themselves as an authority when they don't have the relevant or necessary credentials.
Yeah, I think
which is kind of contrary to the idea of Christian humility.
Christians need media training.
Yeah. And also to read
their Bibles too.
book.
Yeah. I'm never going to diss somebody for reading the Bible and sharing their Christianity online. It's just be conscious of how you are perceived, because remember, the goal is not just your salvation. The goal is everybody's.
The thing that really gets me is those who claim to be an authority and they quote the Bible or they reference the Bible and they get it wrong, like heavily.
Oh, dude, the ones that piss me off the most are the ones who just get up and start preaching in places where it's completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
Like,
waited like
you,
drive
you don't need to be
I'm like agnostic still.
Yeah, you don't need to be standing on a table at Five Guys like proselytizing.
Yeah.
That's not helping.
Yeah.
That's not doing anything. That's just pissing people off.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to talk about here. Is it not necessarily the sharing the testimony stuff? It's like the aggressive preaching in places where it's not appropriate.
Wait. So Count Patzelin said converted or re-upped their faith. At least that's how I have always interpreted boarding again. But here's the thing. That made me think of, they're just prestiging.
Read the next question.
There's always a way to get him to make that reaction. This is... Now you know how Isaiah feels.
Yeah, I know.
Kelney, official data for 999, said, just my 2 cents, but is it possible it's a number of stories of the random genetically tall people that like happen today, and the stories are then spread like fish stories, getting bigger with each retelling?
Well, that's the weird... With some of them, yeah. I think that's probably the case with some stories, but with the 4 specifically that I was talking about, it doesn't feel like it is. I think Pigafetta was being very deliberate in his description, because I think he was probably trying to either glorify their voyage or justify the deaths it took, make things seem more intense so that the crown would send more expeditions, whatever. With the Site Ka, it seems to have been basically late 19th, early 20th century mix-ups in the archaeological and storytelling processes. Giant of Kandahar is just BS entirely. And then the story of Goliath, I feel like if it was getting whispered down the lane, he'd have ended up being more than 10 feet tall.
Depends. I guess it depends on how many times it was whispered down the lane.
And that's the thing, is we don't know.
That's the thing, because with the oral tradition.
Yeah, we don't know when the Bible went from being oral to written. There are reasons to believe it was as early as 1200 BC. There are people who would say it was the 6th century. So, I mean, what we are finding is that a lot of the things in the book are accurate to history in terms of like descriptions of battles and famines and things like that. We're finding that all of these things were recorded elsewhere. So that's the thing, is if it was entirely oral for 600 years, that's impressive.
Yeah. Is there a version of the Bible online that provides essentially inline citations external to the Bible of things that have been corroborated from different historical documents.
Oh God, I'm sure there's something.
Because that would be really interesting.
I cannot recommend enough Logos Bible software.
Yeah.
For anybody interested in Bible study, whether it's academic, whether you're religious, no matter what it is, Logos is awesome. It's going to be the closest thing you get to that. There's a bunch of different, you can buy different books. And the thing is, not all of the books you can buy are Bibles. Some of them are commentaries. So, and it works through with all of them. They're all intertwined. So it's really incredible software.
Nice. James Hirata for $4.99 says, I think you all mentioned that there's a video on Roswell coming.
Yes.
Do you guys have plans to do a more devoted investigation of UFOs down the line? I think he's finally coming around to it.
I'll do some.
You've always been very anti-alien.
Every time I see a story, it just screams hoax.
Oh, I don't disagree, but I think I'm intrigued by your fundamental hesitancy to the idea of them.
I don't know. I feel like if aliens if they got here, I feel like it would be a bit more obvious, you know?
That's fair. That's fair.
Like, think about humans. What do we do every time we get to a new place?
Colonize the hell out.
We make it known.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does not typically take us very long to set up shop. At least to try. You know, 986 AD, this guy Bjarn gets to sees the coast of North America, basically goes, well, that's not Greenland. I'm not stopping there. Goes to Greenland and doesn't tell anybody about it for 15 years. Doesn't bring it up. The second he does, they're like, okay, well, we got to go figure out what the hell that is. And they start setting up a colony.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of in terms of Roswell is that it was the galactic equivalent of a lifeboat.
Possibly. I think it was something more like, based on what I've read so far, I think we were running space missions earlier than we admitted, or at least trying. Because if you think about the description, it kind of sounds like early spacesuits.
Fair. Are there any images?
Not as far as I'm aware. Not that can
Only
be
recreations?
Not that it can be confirmed, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Guys,
if you
there
know
might
of
be.
any.
Like I said, I got to look into it. What's weird about it to me, and suggests something definitely happened that was more than a weather balloon, was the fact that it was reported widely, like immediately, as being a flying saucer that crashed. And then the next day, the Army was all over it.
Yeah.
That was not a weather balloon.
Might have been Skunk Works.
Yeah, I think it was...
Around that early?
I don't know. I think it was experimental aircraft of some kind. I just think it was earthbound.
Yeah, that's fair. Emerald Queen for $4.99 says, could Goliath be a guy with gigantism like Andre the Giant? That would explain why it was one giant among an army of normal-sized people.
He would be the largest one ever recorded.
In a people that were average what height?
Uh,
Do you know anything about the Philistines, like, in that regard?
Just given the time, probably sitting around 5'6" on average.
Okay.
Um,
For those, that's me.
Yeah.
That's my height.
So, I don't know. The fact that we get a distinct measurement, and that this measurement comes up elsewhere, like they talk about the beds of like the Anakim being like 13 cubits or something. I don't know. It's a weird story. The only thing that's remotely unbelievable about the story of David and Goliath is that Goliath was 10 feet tall instead of 7 feet tall.
Fair. A7XM Shadows 19 for $4.99 says, your favorite Ohioan forklift driver here. I don't stand the slander even if my mother was called a flatlander when she was a kid. I will say the only place...
Is it slander if it's true?
The only place flatter is like West Kansas. And like
I've heard Iowa is very flat.
Yeah. The wild part about West Kansas to Eastern Colorado is if you drive on the east-west interstates and you're going directly west, it is flat, 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 and then slowly you start to see the tip of a mountain, and then you see the full mountain, and it doesn't change size for like 200 miles, and then all of a sudden you're there.
Yep.
It's crazy.
We're going to be doing that this summer.
I know. Yeah, we got to get that
At least to Yellowstone.
scheduled. Yeah. Well, only if they have enough rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
That'll be an episode that's coming up once I have time to research what the hell is actually going on. Because a lot of people are blowing it out of proportion, but also, bro, the parks.
Yeah. It's a wild.
I think they were. I think somebody at Doge was like, well, seasonal employees aren't necessary, and it's not realizing that the park running with seasonal employees is the park running at full capacity.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a surplus.
Yeah.
It's at a deficit the rest of the year.
Also, like, guess they didn't realize like what we learned when we were in Denali.
Yep.
That, you know, the people who are seasonal are essentially consistent employees. It's just contractually they have to get rehired every year.
I made a couple of TikToks about it. Most people got the point.
Yeah.
That it wasn't supposed to be because my TikToks were basically like, one was directed at the left and it was like, hey guys, your messaging sucks. Stop doing TikTok dances and holding signs. That's not helping. And then the one to the right was basically like, hey guys, just because Trump's doing it doesn't make it good. You should like the parks. Here's all the reasons you should like the parks.
Yeah.
So it was basically like, you know, look, kids, you're both just awful on this topic. Because it's like both, everybody, the parks are good for everyone. I was basically like, you know, there's the left-wing arguments in favor of keeping the parks do not resonate with the right at all because they're like, they're going to log it. And it's like, no, that would require an act of Congress. That's not going to happen. Whereas on the right, people are like, well, you know, we've got to make hard sacrifices. And I'm like, no, this isn't one of them. Like, let's think about right-wing values here. These are American jobs that conserve American wildlands that are seen as one of the exceptional things about America throughout the world. One of the things that are uniquely good about the United States, something that bolsters local American economies. Like at every single level, the National Park Service and the National Forest Service are beneficial to America. There is not a single way in which they are negatives.
And there are entire towns in this country that rely on those parks as a source of income from tourism.
I mean,
we've been to multiple.
Yeah,
at this point.
even if they're not being logged, rangers not being available to do search and rescue, to do maintenance, all of those things.
To help somebody find.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you know who's going to benefit from the National Park Service being cut? Us, because there's going to be a lot more missing people to cover.
Yeah.
Don't make my job easier. Save the parks.
Love it. Also, yeah, like if we bolstered the parks, maybe we would have found your backpack soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I eventually got it back.
Thankfully. Ellen de Howler, Werewolf Queen for $4.99 says, do we have any maps from the time? And if so, what do they show as Newfoundland or any of the other locations mentioned for that?
We do. It's called the Stahlholt map, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Here's the problem. It shows them all as being one connected landmass. It's also 300 years later.
Of course.
200 years later. 300 years later, yeah.
Of course.
So it shows it shows it all as being connected, which on the one hand, like, if that map is accurate to their understanding at the time, then it suggests they didn't get up the St. Lawrence at all, or even really past, like, a certain point with Newfoundland. But also, who knows if it's accurate to what they perceived, because it's the only one.
Oh, fun. EK for $4.99 says, super off topic, but how important was the donation of Constantine and it being fake? Milk.
It caused, like, several wars.
Really?
Yeah. It's probably responsible for the Catholic Church being... I would argue that without the Catholic Church forging the donation of Constantine, the Reformation may not have happened.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Miss Maury for $2.
Also, we really appreciate the super chats, but please stop sending them. We need to go home at some point.
Yes. Could they purposely be given wrong directions, Miss Maury says.
There would be no reason.
Gomp says good night.
Good night, Gump.
Wizards Workshop for $5 says, I would like to know where I can get Mattis's cross necklace and Thornbury's cardinal compass necklace. You're going to have to ask this lovely woman over here about
I have to give the same answer because Amanda bought me mine. I think I can find it on Etsy, and I can probably post it.
My recommendation would find a partner who loves you, and they may just find a way.
Okay, it's a difficult thing to do these days.
I don't know. Kat, where'd you find mine?
It was on Etsy.
Yeah, there
Etsy.
we go. Etsy.
Etsy is just your answer, honestly. Etsy's great.
You'll find anything on Etsy.
I have bought so many things on Etsy. I bought a holster and a gun belt on Etsy.
We're considering selling Archies on Etsy.
That's true.
Yeah.
Not like actual, like the plushes.
Oh, yeah, plush.
It's behind
So if anybody would want Archie plushes, let us know.
Oh, and Archie's getting up.
And they would be created by Cat. Dogs by Cat.
Much like Archie, he's not very smart. There we go.
Nope, that's two. Yeah.
I was going to pick him up and...
There you go. He's very cuddly.
Right?
So it's got a Lore Lodge thing, and then it also has a Archie tag.
Mm-hmm.
Archie, Lore Lodge.
Might get Ella ones too at some point, but...
Yep.
Sit. Down, boy.
He can stand.
Oh, there's the actual Archie. He's on the ground. He's staring at me.
They can see the tail wagging just a tad in the bottom. Anyway, yes. So Etsy has everything. Michael Elmore for $5 says, howdy, was wondering if either of y'all checked out Manifest Destiny from Image Comics. Seems up y'all's alley.
I had not.
Not seen it. I will write.
I do need to watch American Primeval. I've heard good things. Also, 1923, like in terms of just like American, like shows about America, great show. Like, so far, not suffering from any of the nonsense that late Yellowstone suffers from.
Hang on. Asmodeus, I'm reading this now and I'll skip it later. Just chatter for $2 says, you may not leave now. There are chatters nearby.
Oh, God. That's how it feels.
Fruitcake for $4.99 says, I read an author who suggested the curse of Ham was his wife had Nephilic ancestry and therefore post-Diluvian Nephilim references.
You just cannot say the word Diluvian.
How'd I say it?
Diluvian. Like deluge.
I feel like I'm beginning to wonder if I have...
Dyslexia?
Yeah.
You might. Like very minor, but you might.
Yeah. I read it. Here's the thing. I read it right, but it mixes on the way out.
That happens to me too.
Okay. Yeah, Diluvian.
I
did it again.
Yep, you did.
Diluvian.
There we go.
There it is.
I've heard that argument. It kind of can make some sense. At the same time, I like the localized flood theory better.
Yeah. Well, can you explain exactly what they were talking about briefly?
Oh, basically the idea is that Ham specifically, and that's the reason it doesn't make much sense to me, is that like if Ham's wife had Nephilim DNA, then so would the others. Like the whole point was that only Noah's line was righteous or blameless, in that it didn't have any of the nonsense DNA. So it kind of carries through that maybe. I mean, if you want to get really granular about it, it could carry through that the Nephilim gene was passed along in the Y chromosome, which kind of would make sense if the Nephilim were, because they're male.
Is this...
Well, if all of the angels were men...
Hang on. No. Hang on. I'm about to make a connection that might make people mad.
No?
This sounds an awful lot like something that happened in the 20s.
Huh?
Begins with an E.
Eugenics?
Yeah. This sounds like a spiritual version of eugenics.
It was justified.
It was God, so it was okay.
They were eating people. They were eating people.
I'm gonna say that Thursday.
Oh no.
He might blow up.
I'm just gonna make it very clear that that's entirely you.
Yeah.
You can take the brunt of that one for me.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. Good luck with that, though.
The hand grenade says, "Clip that."
What?
Just what I said.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, defend the flood as not being eugenics. Not you. I'm just to the crowd.
Oh no.
Sorry, I may have just given the atheist. So
It's not the only time in the Bible that somebody has to do a genocide.
yeah,
It happens if you. Yeah, it helps if you understand that that was kind of normal in the Bronze Age
yeah, but
for intertribal combat.
I will say that is generally an atheist sticking point of like how could they possibly justify genocides? Which is again why I want you to have more conversations
Okay.
with prevalent atheists. That way you can
Okay.
say, oh, historically that
I'm
makes
gonna have to come up with an explanation on that one.
yeah.
Oh boy.
I like challenging people. It's fun. But
Nobody.
Chip with a hand grenade said, but the real question is, how can it be blamed on Karl Marx? Karl Marx is responsible for the flood.
I gotta have a temporal paradox at this point that ends with Karl Marx somehow being around in 4000 BC.
Maybe he is. He is the challenger. So maybe.
Karl Marx is Satan?
Maybe.
Okay.
No.
Nah, Satan worked harder.
Yeah, that's fair.
Satan had a job.
Incredible.
At least the devil had a 9 to 5.
Tyler Downward for 556. Love the specificity. Says giants from Middle Earth will ascend to destroy the ATF. Also, I got my Wendigo print pattern Patreon gift today. Worth it.
Glad you like it. Yes, if you sign up for the Patreon at any tier over the $1 level, you will get a gift of some kind after 3 months. It depends on what tier level it is. Yep. The highest one gets you a hoodie. It's comfy cozy.
It is.
All right, where do we got next?
Ellen and Howler Werewolf Queen for $9.99 says treat money for the whole team.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Archie said treats.
Cheyenne Tetrault for Canadian $10 says, I already sent something to Aiden's live Friday, but I want to say for both Aidens, you guys have been an inspiration for me and pushed me to better myself and to pressure becoming an ATC.
Aw.
Thank you both.
Thank
Hey,
you.
that's awesome. Great job.
Yeah, good for you.
Well done. Michael Elmore for $5 says, also, any updates on the lodge location? I tune on Spotify, episode 62, and just got engaged and want to get an idea for locations to host by 2028. I think he means like the lodge.
Oh, the big
idea
one?
that we used to talk about.
Oh,
yeah.
God, I have no idea when we'll have that going.
Yeah, we'll be lucky if we ever do.
Yeah.
We're working on still being able to afford the one we're in, so.
And homes.
Yeah.
I need to buy a house.
Yeah. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
It's not even that easy to be said.
No.
Yeah.
One day there will be less boomers. And then there will be homes.
Yeah, the one upside to an estate tax is that if you aren't part of one, it makes it easier to get one.
Yeah. I do think that it should be illegal for like BlackRock and Vanguard to own more than a certain number of single family homes.
Yeah.
Like there should be rules against that.
Yeah, corporations shouldn't own single family homes.
No. I think if you're anything bigger than a small LLC, like it's one thing if you own 5 rental properties in the town you live in. That's not the same thing as owning like several thousand homes in multiple cities across the United States.
Yep. That's that whole asset theft by
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why we like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Is because Teddy knew when to say no.
Yes. And he also established the national parks.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy. Great man.
Great guy. Kind of racist against Italians, but it's okay.
Yeah, you know,
I'm giving him the pass.
everyone's got flaws. Doesn't mean they're good. Moving on. Chip with a hand grenade for $1.99 says, "Gentlemen, we must milk the squonk."
Put him in timeout. Mods, kill this man.
Cheyenne Tetrol for Canadian $2 says, "Also, Thornberry Tetrol is Tetro, like tro, like toe. Tetro. I don't know. I just watched Master and Commander at 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, so I'm very anti-France right now.
Bro, I'm always anti-France.
I know you are. Ellen the Howler Werewolf Queen for $4.99 says, "Put this towards a lawyer. What those people are doing sounds illegal. Know your rights and keep yourself safe."
It is probably illegal. Chances are. But I don't know. I'm too busy. Too busy to deal with that. I'm probably just going to like say a bunch of insulting things to the manager and make her cry and then go home after paying for it.
Mason Hakes, regular chat, says, "Islamic Society of Allentown is so close to you guys. You should invite Sheikh Mohammed El Shinawi for a talk and expand your perspective." I'd pay for that. I'd pay to see that. It's not.
I was told that if you don't have anything nice to say, it's best to not say anything.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You're a smart man. Sean Torres for 1997, thank you very much, says, "First live I've been able to catch in a long while. Love the show. Hope y'all are doing well. I'd love to hang out if y'all came to Michigan."
I will be in Detroit for a wedding in September.
Really?
Yeah. Just got the invite.
Also, yeah, again, whoever the first one was that sent us the wedding invite, please resend it.
Yes. Or
We don't know where it ended up.
yeah, it got lost somewhere. You don't have to send an actual invite. You could just send us a letter.
Yeah, or just an email.
Yeah, a letter would probably be more reliable.
Yeah, that's fair. Well,
You have a better chance of reaching us with a letter at this point.
yeah, it's kind of shocking, actually. Cheyenne Tetro. Tetro? Tetro? We'll get there. Says Canadian $5. "You guys need to play Kingsport Festival. It's a HP Lovecraft game, including starting a cult and summoning Eldritch gods. We already do that for a living, though."
I would start a cult in a game in Minecraft in that game. I would never start a cult in real life though.
I'll take it for now. Kaiser96 for $20. Thank you very much. Says, "A bit late, but have you heard about the Trench Crusade board game?
No.
Also, have you heard of Orb on the Movements of Earth, anime about heliocentrism?" That's a wild.
Ooh, no. I've not heard of most animes, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
that's fair. Also, Ellen is giving us $5 for therapy money.
Woo! One of these days I'll actually get the therapy.
All right. Cybane for one
Once
of
I have health insurance again.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
apparently now I need to wait until I file my taxes to get health insurance again.
Seriously?
Yeah. Because you need a qualifying life event. And in my opinion, the qualifying life event is being alive!
Yeah.
Who decided you needed an enrollment period for health insurance?
Probably. I'm going to.
Listen, the lesser Mario brother may have been onto something.
Cybane for $1.99 says, "Mothman Festival September 20th, 21st. You lads set the date."
Could get down there. I was gonna do a video on Mothman recently. Like, I was like, the one we did was like 3 years ago. It was kind of not very good. And then I started looking into the sources, and there's just not a lot out there on Mothman. Unless you want to just kind of cover the legend, in which case, maybe that's what I'll do, is next time I want to do Mothman, I'll do it the way I did Blair Witch. Where we'll talk about, like, you know, the legend and the movie and all that. Did see something interesting, which is that it may have been a kind of heron, I think,
Interesting.
that has like red around its eyes.
Interesting.
Or a crane, I think. Yeah, it was a crane.
Chimp with a hand grenade for $1.99 said, "Holy shit, it's canon now."
What is?
I don't know.
Oh, God.
Confed Yank 199 says, "Thoughts on doing IRL lore of D&D races?"
Ooh. I'm not sure how you do IRL of that.
Kind of like what the race is in D&D, and then maybe what its influences were. like where it came from, stuff like that.
That seems like a very slippery slope.
No, I'm thinking more like Dragonborn, like, you know, like what is the mythology of dragons?
Okay, I see where you're going. That could be interesting.
And like, you know, where, like, what are the traits of elvishness, and like, you know, where did elves originate in mythology?
I would definitely need to collaborate with a D&D creator on that one.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because I just don't know enough about D&D. But if I had somebody to work with who could write up like the D&D side of things, then I could go and do the like folklore side of things.
Yeah, that's fair. The White Trash Panda for $2 says, read 6016 in Hawaiian Pidgin. I can't do that right now. I can't do Pigeon. Yeah.
I
can't do that.
Which one was it?
6016.
In which, probably Isaiah.
Yeah.
So,
Also, he said, my old roommate had a message remixed version. We always teased him and said he was reading the Ghetto Bible. That's horrible.
Oh no.
That's terrible.
Oh no. Aiden.
What? No. No.
I don't even know how I can read that. I feel like if I do, it'll be clipped and used for evil.
No, that's the thing, is you can't read this and not sound racist. Even with
literally, yeah. You can't. Can I see it?
Yeah, don't read it. We can read it off. No.
Like one mudda breastfeed her baby fo make come strong is one of the lines here.
I'm glad you didn't do a Jamaican accent for it.
Well, it's Hawaiian, so that would have been extra bad.
Exactly.
See, now I'm hearing it though.
No.
What? No, the Shane Gillis skit from Saturday Night Live where he's at a Jamaican church.
Yeah.
He was like, God, Jesus was on the cross. Like, I kind of want Shane Gillis reading the Hawaiian Pigeon Bible.
I think that'd be great. I think that'd be phenomenal.
He can get away with it. I can't.
Asmodeus for $10 says, hey guys, hope you're doing good. I missed the first half, so I'm going to rewind, but just wanted to ask if you've gotten any updates about the tablet that was found on Melt Ball. That was ages ago.
That was a while ago. I haven't looked into it recently, but I can take a look.
Also, we're almost done.
Okay, thank God.
HND223 for $10 says, we'll be sending info soon if you guys and my fellow PsyOps care to extend your YouTuber wedding crashing career this October on the other side of PA. Depends.
I have a wedding in October, so it depends.
So it very much depends on the wedding, but
my cousin's getting married.
It'd be fun.
We're getting a new family.
The biggest issue is going to be the travel expenses, but
yeah.
Otherwise. Mark Nichols for $5.01. Love the specificity. Says, I would like to have a traditional Catholic theologian on not only to firm up Thornberry's faith in the church, but hopefully he can convert Mattis.
The chances of me converting to Catholicism are very low.
Never zero.
Never zero. If they end up being the last church that's remotely biblical, then maybe. No, we are going to try and get a Catholic priest at the very least onto Weird Bible for a kind of round table kind of thing. We're looking at doing an actual documentary. I just need to figure out what questions I'd want to ask first.
Yeah.
And then we would probably springboard that off into the round table show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's our goal. Is we want to do a denomination series of like going to different denominations and talking with leaders to kind of dive into their version of Christianity, and then eventually that leading into a roundtable show where we have a number of the members that were part of that previously discuss different passages and how they would apply to the different churches. Anyway, Bert Moran for $5 says, random. I recently found out that Bob Barker was a member of the same tribe as myself. Hope you guys get some sleep.
I did not know Bob Barker was Native American.
Neither did I. It's kind of wild. Cats with Cannons for $9.99 says, no, we shall go all night.
I've done that twice.
Have a mistake each time.
You know, the first 18 hours are fine.
It's the last 6.
It's the 6. Because those 6 hours, the first 2 of them feel like 4 hours, and then the next 2 feel like 8.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 feel like 16.
Yeah. That tracks.
Yeah.
Asmodeus for $2 says, you may not have challengers nearby. And then last, but certainly not least, Sean Torres for $2 says, yay, I heard my super chat. Now I can go to bed. And we feel the same way.
All right.
I'm a little hungry and
yeah. Well, This week, you can expect a video on the CTK that is going to combine stuff we've already covered with new material that I hope will make that story the best we've ever told it. And then the following week, you are going to get a very, very long episode on the Viking settlement in North America that goes into so much more detail than I went into tonight. So have fun with that.
I'm excited.
I'm going to go mildly insane over the next week because we've also got to shoot 6 episodes of History Unhinged. And apparently Stephen and Gabby just left about an hour and a half ago.
There's no way Are they expecting to do one tomorrow?
Oh, yeah. We're going to just hook Steven up to like an IV drip of like NOS energy drink.
Yeah. God, that poor man. All right.
Yeah.
Well, because we're not...
Sounded like an everything that could have gone wrong did situation.
Yeah, that's a shame. They said they're going to be here by the afternoon, so we'll probably do that in like the evening so they have time to like...
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, well, that's good because at least we
If
still
not,
have
I'll work.
stuff up
If
there.
not, I'll work all day tomorrow, like into the evening.
That was my plan.
And then just we can do 3 Wednesday and 3 Thursday.
That's a lot.
It is. It sure is.
All right, we'll figure it out when they get here.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping by the lodge this evening. It was great having you and chatting with you. We will see you on Thursday for Weird Bible. Please feel free to stop by.
Yeah.
And then again next Monday
For this.
live. And then, and tune in Friday for Sitka Lovelock.
Yeah.
And stay tuned for History Unhinged and all those other fun things.
All right. See you guys.